What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of LUDWICK'S podcast. This episode is just kind of free for all. Going to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the shop, life in general, and some of your Instagram questions. Corey's with me today. We're recording at my home studio. We haven't done one of these here in a while. I feel like it's been a month or two, maybe. We've been on the road. The last couple episodes have been with Aiden in Chattanooga. And then actually last week's was the first episode of the podcast of the century, which was long overdue. I've only recorded 3 of those. One with Robert Overholser, whose episode is live now. That was episode 1. Ashton Williams, a good friend of mine in Chattanooga, and Mason Gavin, our buddy who puts on Riverside, Chattanooga, that we just went to a few weeks ago. So that whole series, I was really hoping to stack up more than 3 episodes. I was really hoping to stack up a bunch when we were in Ocean City, because that's kind of like a hub to where like everybody comes out to.
Yeah.
So, but amidst the chaos that is Ocean City every year, it doesn't surprise me that I didn't get as many done as I wanted to. We got a couple done that next weekend in Chattanooga, but now that I still have the car, I wasn't sure what was going to happen to that car, if I was going to sell it over the winter or not. I really want to stack up a few more this spring and summer before I may potentially sell the car.
Yeah.
And most of that, I mean, the fact that I'm like a little bit more ambitious about keeping the car is simply because of how much Anthony Purcell knocked that intro out of the park.
He really did.
Like,
Yep.
it blew my mind. So we filmed that in Ocean City because obviously, as I mentioned, it's a hub and everybody's there. And Anthony wasn't even going to bring his filming gear, because normally he does an unofficial H2O video every year and does a few like feature shoots of certain cars that are in that video. And this year he wasn't going to bring any gear at all, assuming that this was probably going to be his last year going because of how insane it's gotten.
Yep.
And reached out to me and asked if I was bringing the Century. I said, yeah. And he's like, I'm going to bring my gear. And he just came with the gear to shoot the Century, which is pretty cool. So
really cool.
He did his own like spotlight feature film of the car on his channel. And if any of you guys haven't seen it yet, search Halcyon, Halcyon, Halcyon Photo, or just Halcyon on YouTube. And, or you might even be able to just search my name in Century and that probably comes up.
Yeah.
But he did a phenomenal job with that. That was really cool. But while we were filming, I pitched him the idea for the podcast of the century, and I really wanted to have him on one. It didn't work out, unfortunately. I mean, it probably could have, but we had a lot going on. And my idea for a cinematic intro for each of the episodes, like one intro for all the episodes, but a cinematic intro. And I envisioned this 1980s synthwave vibe, like dark, like moody intro, 15 to 30 second intro with like some dark synthwave music as just like an intro. So you can see the car, because the podcast itself, we're just sitting in the car and you see us in the back seat. And, for anyone who doesn't know, I built like a little mobile podcast studio in the back of that car. And the play on words, I felt like it had to be done.
Yeah, of course.
It's a Toyota Century and it's the podcast of the century. Like, it just had to happen. And
yeah, and he absolutely nailed it with that intro video.
He did.
Yeah.
And my pitch to him before we filmed anything, it was, first of all, I loved his style, and I felt like his style fit that whole vibe, because he does a lot of his car features are Japanese or JDM cars, dark synthwave or real vaporwave, like ambient type, soundtracks. And,
yeah.
And so when I pitched him the idea, he knows I'm a musician, but I told him, I said, I want to write the music. Like, I don't write synthwave music.
Right.
I've never written synthwave music.
Right.
But I love synthwave music. I write like indie rock, ambient, movie score, soundtrack type, real atmospheric,
deep stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like indie rock, I guess, if you were going to put like one encapsulating genre over it, I guess. Organic instruments with a lot of like programmed backing, like soundtrack type stuff. Like, I don't know how to describe it. I use Reason,
right?
The program Reason to write. Like, I'll add strings or electronic percussion to some of my stuff, but I've never like really taken that program and written an all electronic song in synthwave. So my plan was just to write the soundtrack for it. Now I only needed like a minute worth of a song in order to cut down to a 15 to 30 second clip. So we filmed an intro with Anthony. I came home and got right on trying to write it and was defeated immediately. I don't spend that much time in this studio anymore.
Yeah.
Not hardly enough time that I want to. So, I mean, the Rising Sea, my music project, it's been an ongoing joke, but really quite an anchor in my life, that this has been a music project I've had for 10 or 11 years now, and I haven't put anything out with it. Like there's a few like unfinished demos that I've put up on my SoundCloud simply because it's like, well, at least there's something and it's not done. So I felt like, very rusty. Like I'm super rusty. I come in here and like putt around for like a half hour, like every other week maybe. And it's not enough to really get the gears turning or dust any cobwebs off. So I sat down and opened Reason up, and with writing synthwave, for writing a synthwave track that I wanted to write, I wanted to build all my instruments, to go into the program and build my own sounding synth, build my own sounding bass.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like the packs you get in the instrument packs that you get in that program are pretty like they're very flat sounding. So you have to add the characteristics to it, whether or not that's reverb or any sort of envelopes or any sort of modulation. All that stuff you have to like add yourself.
Yeah.
So I went through and built like 4 or 5 like percussion, bass, synth, just some other atmospheric sounds. And it took forever. And then you have to compose. Then you're composing the music.
Oh, of course. You have to start somewhere.
And so I listened to a lot of synthwave. So I was drawing from a lot of like dark, moody synthwave that I like. Found a key, found a tempo, found like a few different things that I wanted to like start with. And as I started working on it, I realized it was an insurmountable task for the level of product or result that I wanted. And I wasn't reaching that bar. And it was the best or nothing, in my opinion. So I scrapped a whole bunch of stuff. I wasn't sending any of this to Anthony. I was it just kept getting put off and put off and put off. And obviously being self-employed, that's a whole whirlwind to the car projects and all that. So I didn't stick with it. And then finally, Anthony got busy with a bunch of stuff too. And then finally, I'm like, I got to get going on this. Like, I really got to get this done, or these 3 episodes, or the whole idea of the podcast of the century is just going to get buried under other things.
Lost. Yeah.
And then I'll sell the car and then wish I had maybe if these first 3 episodes came out, it would motivate me to keep the car around a little bit longer and cram in a bunch more of these episodes.
Yeah.
So, and plus, we've got winter storage. So the car has just been in storage for the last 6 months.
Of course.
November to basically here we are mid-April. So, I got with Anthony. Anthony said, well, send me some clips some audio clips so I can start kind of like a mood board for the editing of the video. And so I almost refreshed his memory. I'm like, I really want to write the soundtrack, but this has been beating me up badly. Like I've been binning a lot of tracks that I'm not excited about. I don't think they're that good. I'm my own worst critic about this. So he goes, well, just send me a few. So I sent them a couple of like the most recent ones that I'd thrown in the garbage. I was like, they're basically scrapped. And I should pull up the text message.
Yeah.
But he was basically like, yo, like, why are you throwing this away?
Yeah.
And it really helped motivate me because this was a set of fresh ears who likes synthwave. He likes that vaporwave synthwave type of music. And he was like, I forgot how he said it, but he was basically like, this is amazing. And I was like, you think so? Be real with me. Like, I'm a musician. I can take it. Like, I need that constructive criticism. And he's like, no, man. Like, because I was ready for him to pick out like a licensed, something that he had the copyright to.
Yeah.
Just like a clip. I'm like, this is what I want. Just use it so we can get this thing out. And I was abandoning the full organic that I wanted for it to where I had my hands on everything. I mean, other than Anthony actually filming and editing the video. So when he heard a few of the clips, he's like, you have to do this. You're so close.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, man, I'll do this. So I started from scratch. I didn't build off of anything I'd thrown away because I was already mentally abandoning that stuff. So I started from scratch, and I feel like it was over the course of like a week. I spent every night in here trying to like compose and get all the the chord progressions and get the transitions. And most synthwave is a build up at the beginning.
Of course.
It's like one note, one ambient sound, and then it builds and kind of crescendos. So I was writing with that type of a layout, and I finally got onto something that I really liked. And so I sent it to him, and he's like, yeah, this is perfect. And it's only like a 20-second intro or something. And I couldn't envision it better. Like it was.
No, it's great.
Anthony just killed it, and I'm so happy he made me or gave me the motivation to like write that. So any of you guys that have listened to the first episode, or if you go back and listen to it, the intro and the outro music is that synthwave part I was talking about. And I'm super proud of it. Like super,
Yeah, man,
even though it's only
be.
like 20 seconds, I'm like, and there's a lots that I'd like to change or add to it or mix. It was a quick bounce down, like a quick mix. Didn't even master it, just sent it out. So anyone who sits behind a soundboard can hear obviously waivers and would change levels or whatever. But the fact that it's like it came out of my mind through my fingertips onto my keyboard, and like it's there and it's like tangible now.
And it matches up to the video so well.
I'm so stoked on it.
It's like the same person put the two together.
Which is what I was hoping for, that continuity.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, that was just something I wanted to cover real quick, even though I've spent like 10 minutes on that. But I'm really excited about it. So after this episode, I'm hoping to stagger some of the other two out. So maybe Ashton's will be next week, and then Mason's maybe 2 weeks from now if I get one in between.
Yeah.
So by then, hopefully, spring is here, the car's out, and I can record a few more. Even if we just do another like update episode from the car or something.
That'd be cool.
So aside from that, unofficially, but officially, this episode is brought to you by Bag Riders.
Yes, it is.
And actually, we're wearing all Bag Riders gear. You've got a tee, I've got a long sleeve, and the 5-panel hat on.
Oh,
and this was an
dang.
accident. This was not planned.
No, this was not.
Because you had your hoodie on all day.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're wearing Bag Riders. I'm in all Bag Riders. So,
Hey,
so
shout out to the boys.
yeah. So if you follow me on Instagram, I post Bag Riders left, right, and center. They've been instrumental in the last, I'd say, 4, if not 5 of my projects. And they have gone to lengths that I don't feel I deserve, but I am unbelievably grateful for nonetheless. So Bag Riders has been a huge, huge sponsor for all of my projects in the last few years, and I can't thank them enough. And so although I haven't been soliciting ads or sponsors for the podcast episodes, they sponsor me in huge ways with these cars that it's the least I can do to say they sponsor this episode, because they sponsor this whole podcast as far as I'm concerned. So head to bagriders.com, your one-stop drop shop. Anything you need for air suspension, airlift performance, AccuAir, even coilovers, BC Racing, D2. I'm not even reading a cue card right now. This is just everything you can get at bagriders.com.
They got wheels. They got
wheel dealer, rotiform, all sorts of stuff. Everything from like manual management to old school like I don't know if it's ASCO valves, but everything
Manual
to
valves.
electronic solenoids, manual valves, fittings, airline, merchandise. You can get some merchandise that I have actually made them. Leather key rings, airlift 3P and 3H manifold plate covers, wooden ones, acrylic ones. So if you were to go up to bagriders.com and get an airlift 3P management system or 3H management system, you can actually go through and add on a Bag Riders custom manifold plate that I actually made. But one better, make sure at checkout you use code LUDWICK'S, LUDWICK, to get a discount on all of that gear. And I have not been pushing that hard enough.
Hey.
We've had that discount code up for like months. I plugged it in like the last YouTube video. I haven't even posted on Instagram that's even a thing. I'm the worst at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you use code LUDWICK'S at bagriders.com, you'll get yourself a little discount.
Yeah, and we went there in the most recent YouTube video too for a
That's right.
tour of the new facility. And
yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
yeah, all their project cars they got going on.
Yeah, 2 episodes back, I think now.
Two,
couple episodes back. You'll read it in the thumbnail. But yeah, Corey and I drove up to Burlington, Vermont, about 2.5 hours from here. We split the day up. It was a beautiful day. So we went to the skate park, which is an awesome skate park in Burlington, down on Lake Champlain. And I got a morning session in before it got crowded. Got coffee, got Al's French fries right there.
That's right.
Old 1950s diner in Burlington. Then headed over to the Bag Rider shop, the new Bag Rider shop, which is I don't want to say an unbelievable facility, but unbelievable for knowing Will when he started Bag Riders in 2010
Yeah.
out of his dad's garage.
Right.
So they're in a full-blown facility.
It's a building.
With a distribution center in Pennsylvania now where they keep most of the air suspension stuff or most of the airbags and like hard goods.
Yeah.
It's a huge, I don't even know how to guesstimate the size of that building. 120 by 60 or something. And they're trying to take over the same footprint on the other side. Yeah. It's at least 120 long.
Oh yeah.
Maybe longer than that.
Yeah.
200?
Yeah.
200 by 50 or 200 by 40?
Yeah. I was going to say like 200 by 60 probably.
Wild. And they're trying they're trying to get the mirrored other side of the building. Wow. So it's crazy. So if you go back and watch that episode, I didn't do the best to kind of like almost like interview the boys there, but like, yeah, basically the point of going up there was to get all the air suspension goods for the 2F Polo Coupe, which I don't think I've mentioned on the podcast yet, but if you're here through the YouTube channel, you've seen some of the most recent episodes about this project. And that's kind of what this episode is going to be about. We will get to some Instagram questions here shortly, but what's happened is, let me start at the very beginning. The very beginning actually is that my friend Ross Couples, shout out to Ross, is a local friend of mine here in town. And he has an extensive Volkswagen collection, air-cooled, water-cooled. All the water-cooled stuff is like super rare Euro spec stuff that we never got here in the States. And he owns a used car dealership, but stuff that's still under factory warranty, like not like your quote-unquote used car dealer.
Yeah.
You know, that's selling
the cool stuff is all his.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I mean, I guess I'm just trying to describe like what kind of business he's in, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So, because what he's in for a business enables him for the car collecting stuff.
Yeah.
Because he's already in a daily routine of buying cars. So he's a Volkswagen nerd. He's had up until recently about 60 cars in his collection. And let's talk about the cars I've bought of him. Let's go through that real quick. So, and there'll be some I miss or forget because I'm just going off the cuff here. I think the first car I ever bought off him was a Mark II Golf GT, a 2-door.
Yes.
Yep, Golf GT. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people forget that was a model car or a trim package Golf. And so it wasn't a GTI. It looked like one. It was a 2-door black Golf with a black and gray or black and silver interior, which was a GT specific interior.
Yeah.
And it had the GT badge on the back underneath the passenger side taillight in the same font as the GTI, but it didn't have the I. It just had GT in red. And it was an automatic, which is unfortunate, but it had like 90,000 original miles on it. Like, so it was a pretty low mileage car considering Mark II, and it was remarkably rust free. I don't know where the car was originally from, but all the Mark IIs here in the Northeast rotted out because people who bought those cars brand new in 1988 didn't store them in the winter. They just drove them.
Yeah.
So I bought that off him with aspirations to do something cool with it. Coilovers, wheels, drive it around. But I ultimately just flipped it. Things changed in my life and I didn't have room for a project car, and so I sold that. Then I bought a B5 Passat off him that I dailied for quite a while. That one I don't count because I count like the old cool stuff. Then I bought a car from Virginia, a Mark I 4-door Rabbit diesel.
That's right.
Manual car, red with tan interior. That was rust free. I mean, this thing was phenomenal. I think it had been resprayed, but it didn't have any rust work underneath. It was a solid car, low mileage car too. That had under 100,000 miles. I did coilovers on that. I had some 4x100 wheels. I ran on it for a little bit. But I drove it around for quite a while and just coilovers and lowered and then moved that car on. Then I bought, what came after that? So this might not be all in order, but then I bought the Mark 1.5 right-hand drive Polo Derby, the facelift Mark I, so the Mark 1.5. And I've been talking about that car on Instagram a lot lately because of the more recent Polo that I have.
Yep.
Because in the Derby, I built custom coilovers for it. And the Derby, without going down this rabbit hole, the Derby shares similar suspension to the Fox, the Quantum, the Dasher, which are the B1, B2 Passats in Europe, the Audi 4000, steering rack on the firewall, tie rod mount comes up off the strut tube, not down at the knuckle like the Golfs do. So it took a lot of, especially here in America, took a lot of custom fabrication to build a set of coilovers, which were similar to the custom coilovers I built for the Volkswagen more than a decade ago now, which is wild. But so that car I went down the rabbit hole a little bit with and sold and moved on. Then I bought the Mark II Polo bread van, which was also right-hand drive.
Right. Yeah.
Which is crazy. I wish I'd kept that car too, but that one was done. Well, that was one that I just moved on because Ross has duplicates of a lot of these cars, which is crazy. So Ross has had all 3 generation Polo Derbies, right? So Mark 1, Mark 1.5, and then I think only 2 years of production for the Mark II Derby Polo.
Yes.
Until the name Derby, if I have this right, went to the South America, Brazil market and was a Volkswagen model for the South American only market. And that's when the Polo Derby in Europe became the Polo Derby for the Euro market became the Polo Saloon for the Euro market. So there was the Polo Saloon, the Polo Coupe, the Polo bread van. There may have been others. I don't know if the Caddy was like the Caddy van. I don't know if that was a Polo or not. But
I think no, I think that was just
the bread van was kind of bread van was kind of just that.
Yeah.
So Ross had one of all 3 of those. The Mark I Derby, which had the metal bumpers, round headlights, Polo 1 instrument cluster and interior. The Mark 1.5 shared the same body, same undercarriage, same drivetrain, same everything, but they did an aesthetic facelift. They went to plastic bumpers. They went to these really cool, not square, not round, but like body contoured headlights. They like followed the shape of the front fender.
Yep.
Really, really bizarre and cool looking headlights. And then they went to a Mark I Golf instrument cluster. So they got rid of the Polo cluster, which were round gauge pods, which I really like. So the Mark 1.5 Derby, the one he had was a UK spec car. So that was a right-hand drive model. The Mark I was a German market car. But then he still has a Mark II Derby, which is crazy because they did a full body change.
Yeah.
Full body change. And again, I think it was only a 2-year production car before they became the Polo Saloon. So he's still got the Mark I Derby and the Mark II Derby. I purchased the Mark 1.5 Derby off him because it was a UK market car and he's more of like a German purist car collector.
Right.
So that was kind of a duplicate, but I swear he thought for sure he was like the only dude in the world that had one of every Derby, which I'd believe it because people in Europe probably were like, nobody wanted to collect those. But now it's like they're kind of like a super rare car. I remember when I bought the red one off him, I think on the website, I can't remember the name of the website. There's a website in the UK, like how many are left or how many left or something like that.
A registry.
It's a registration registry. Yeah, it shows how many cars are MOT'd in the United Kingdom. So I searched for Derbies and there were like 11 in like all of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
I'm like, the United Kingdom's kind of small in retrospect or in comparison to America, but I'm like 11 seems like not a lot. And I've got one of them. So that was kind of cool. But he's got 2 others. He's got the 2 rare German ones. So with the bread van, I got the right-hand drive UK market one off him, but he's got an earlier model bread van from Germany that, let me actually move my phone because last time that was causing interference with Paul's episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, our friend Jason was sitting like just outside the frame next to the recorder. And the whole time you could hear like, and I was like, what is going on? But his phone was sitting right next to it. So I'm going to move my phone because I thought I could hear that. Anyway, Ross has a Polo bread van from Germany that Volkswagen as an entity, like Volkswagen corporate, put this like eco diesel, like prototype eco diesel motor in 1985.
That's right.
Or 86, might have even been earlier than that, and sent it to all the trade shows around the world. And it's got this crazy color scheme. Have you seen this car in person yet?
No, I think I've just seen one photo that you had.
I couldn't remember if I showed you because I got the key to the place.
I know.
So
we did go there once and looked through all the cars.
The cars are shoehorned in there.
I know.
They would door handle to door handle.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got
and there's a lot to look at.
Oh yeah, and now it's worse than it's ever been. They're even tighter, and you can't walk between them anymore. So it's like you got to move 4 cars to get one out that's in between bays. In between bay doors.
Gotcha.
So, but anyway, this is white with like a yellow, purple, and blue like livery, like splash livery. It's like as 90s gets, and And so that was like this prototype, like eco diesel car that was kind of sent. They even sent it to America to do all the trade shows here. And somehow it stayed in the States, but the motor had to be taken out because of import laws.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it was some like new motor that, whatever. So the eco diesel was taken out of it. And when Ross bought it, if I have this right, I've heard the story a few times, but it's been a while. I think he bought that car with no motor in it because the motor had been taken out. I don't remember where he found it or how he found it, but stuff finds him now. People know that he collects Volkswagens. People are like, oh, I found this cool Volkswagen. You want it? And it's like something super rare. And he's like, yep. Or it's not rare. And he's just a glutton for punishment. He's like, yep, I'll take it.
Yep.
So he acquired it, but then he somehow acquired a Euro 8 valve for it, which obviously bolted right in.
Perfect.
Like a proper Euro, like 1 liter 8 valve. So it's, as we talked about earlier today, it's got the camshaft driven fuel pump distributor. It's got the forward leaning 8 valve with the exhaust manifold on the front.
Yeah,
it's the Euro motor. So that was the first motor swap he ever did.
Nice.
And I'll have him on the podcast one of these days and we'll talk about all this stuff. But he's not a wrench. Like he likes cars. He'll tinker when he has to, but he doesn't have any like real formal experience like working on cars. But he put this motor in that car and it runs, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Because to be honest, I still haven't done that. You know what I mean? Like my stuff I buy that just maybe it doesn't run. But the motor, okay, so the closest I've gotten to that is the 700.
Yeah.
Like, so I rebuilt that motor, but it technically stayed on the Volkswagen Pan.
Yeah.
So I technically haven't pulled a motor and put one back in a car before. I buy stuff that's capable of running and then I just change everything else around it.
Yeah.
Or cut the roof off and then, make glass.
Yeah.
I do all the harder stuff. But I still, one of these days want to pull a motor out of a car and either put it back in or put something else back in and let it breathe life. Like I've helped my dad do stuff like that since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know how many V8s he's put in muscle cars and trucks. Like I've seen it all, but I have yet to do it on one of my projects. Because I don't know. I'm like, if it runs, like let's just run it.
Yeah.
I skimmed through a few of the questions, the Instagram questions, and there are some along that same wavelength. So I'll cover that more in a little detail.
Yeah, cool.
A little more detail. But yeah, so we put a motor in it. And so what I'm getting at is he's got some duplicates of some of these cars. And he's at the point now where he's way beyond capacity and way beyond the time ever allowed for him to like get these things running and get them out and enjoy them himself, but also have other enthusiasts enjoy them, like people at shows. So I've kind of been that catalyst for him where I'm like, hey, whatever you want to sell, like when I'm ready, like, cause he's not like advertising. He's advertised some cars, but like some of these cars he's not advertising, they just kind of sit lying in wait. So when I'm ready, I'm like, hey, what do you got? What do you got next that you want to sell? And we'll work out a deal. And he's mostly excited to watch that car come into my shop, get posted on the internet, first of all.
Of course.
Because now there's posts like, hey, I picked up this cool car. Like, I'm going to do this to it. And then do suspension or wheels or just something super simple and then take it to Volkswagen shows. It's something that's been imported. So not the average person here in America has ever seen one or sees them regularly. And so he enjoys seeing that kind of stuff. And then I'll sell it, move it on to another home. And so, so we've been doing that for a little bit with a handful of cars. And one that I really wish I pulled the trigger on about 4 years ago that I just was at capacity, didn't have the money to do, was his 1952 split window, split dash Beetle.
Yeah.
For a price that'll make both of us sick. Like for cheap wise, you know what I mean? Like, like a couple grand will come and take this thing. Yeah. But for anyone who doesn't know his 52 split window, it's not a complete car. He doesn't have the original pan, doesn't have the original motor, doesn't have the original rear taillights or bumpers. Like there's some like high dollar splitty stuff that like he doesn't have.
Yeah, not original fenders, I think you mentioned.
Rear fenders, are a little, I think they're oval.
Oh, okay.
Like late, they're close, but they're not like 52. They're like 56, I think. I don't remember. But all the glass is there, interior's there. It's a split dash. It's a 3-bolt hood. It's got all the rarity stuff. And it was like a couple grand. I'll never finish this. And I'm like, put this on an IRS pan and just slam it. Like what Jake Hilling's doing.
Yeah, I know.
Shout out to Jake. I don't think Jake listens to these. I'll have to plug him on Instagram though. So Jake, HR Auto Works with him and his dad, they're like, they find Zwitters and splitties all the time. And then they slam them on the floor, just coat them in like this cool, like not clear, but they like they keep the patina,
Yeah.
and they put them on cool split wheels and cruise them around. And I'm
Straight
like,
up dream stuff.
it is.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So I had that type of vision for the split window, and I passed because I was a schmuck and didn't have any money saved up. And I was like, oh no, I can't. And so now splitty stuff's like bonkers money.
Of course.
But that brings us to the more recent project. So Ross has a pre-facelift Mark II Polo Coupe from Germany, and it's a rad car. It's like very tidy. Now the Mark II Polo Coupes had, at least this one, has a dual round, like 4-round headlights. So the dual round headlight setup, the little notch in the hood above the low beam headlights. It's got the small taillights, just like the Bread Van had. And that one's super, super clean. And that's the car, specifically the car that's got that Blaupunk OEM Plus electronic radio equalizer stand that stands up on a little stand next to the shifter.
Yeah.
And that's what I've emulated the 3H airlift controller in my Lada and the 700. Like I emulated that look where it's like a little stand next to the shifter. So that car I've really, really liked. Well, he recently picked up a recently imported Eurospec Mark II F Polo Coupe, which is the same body but facelifted. So this car was kind of like, so for anyone listening in Europe that knows, it's an 86C Mark II F Polo Coupe. So this was a 1 or 1.1 liter. Some were carbed still. Some were that early fuel injection, and some of them had catalytic converters, which is real crazy. But this was rightfully so a little bit uglier. I think some people will argue that they like this more than the pre-facelift. I like the pre-facelift way more because usually the first gen is always the cooler.
Yeah.
But this car kind of bridged the gap between the Mark II Golf and the Mark III Golf, or in Jettas. This car kind of like experimented with the early Mark III stuff. So it went from round headlights to Mark III-ish looking square headlights, new grille. They went from the metal bumpers, just like the Derby did, to these big plastic bumpers, much like the Mark II Golf went from small bumper to big bumper.
Yeah.
It went from the small metal bumpers to the big plastic bumpers. That's what the Mark II F Polo did. Went to larger taillights, which kind of resembled Mark III Golf taillights.
Yep.
They went to a glued-in rear hatch window instead of a seal boot. So this was, and from what I read, this reduced wind drag by 10% in the wind tunnel by the glued-in rear window hatch.
Huh.
Don't ask me how I know that. But they did a lot of weird things that upgraded the performance of the car, which
hot.
It's
hot hatch,
like 50 horsepower. I don't know. And
1 liter.
Yeah, so Ross acquired a black. It is black, I think, right?
It's like, it's black, but it's metallic, so it's almost like a blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben Walker was like, I love the like purple's cool or something, and I was like, wait, what? The car's black, right?
No,
and he's like, he goes, oh yeah, wait, yeah, it is black.
It's like blue. Yeah.
See, I'm colorblind.
Yeah.
You know this. Well,
I know.
I'm
deficient.
Color deficient.
Yeah.
We'll
I'd call it blue.
Think so?
Yeah.
That's a bummer. I thought it was black this whole time. But yeah, so anyway, Ross acquired this car, Mark II F, facelift Polo, and just because it was here in the States. It had just been imported, and it putted around in Pennsylvania for a little bit, and then he bought it and just tucked it away. Didn't do anything with it. Just tucked it right away. Like he does all of his other stuff. He's driven that pre-facelift Mark II Polo like once. And that I should have, and thinking back, I should have tried to buy that one.
Yeah.
But I knew for sure that's because he's got duplicates. He's got a pre-facelift and a facelift, that was going to be the one that he kept.
Right. That was his end all one.
And the facelift one would be like the one that he'd like justify getting rid of. So maybe last year, it was probably last year at some point, we were just chatting. I make him key rings for his dealership and stuff. So I go over there every now and then and see him. And I was just kind of like picking his brain. I'm like, so what's the latest? What you trying to get rid of anything? I wasn't necessarily trying to buy. It was just conversation.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, because I'm trying to get rid of some of the duplicate stuff. For people who don't know, he had 5 Harlequins. And for anyone who doesn't know what those are, that's the multicolored Golf. Now, if I remember correctly, Fred White, I know Fred's probably listening right now. Fred owns a Harlequin.
Yep.
Fred knows who Ross is because Ross holds the Harlequin registry.
Yeah.
Now I'm about to spew a bunch of nonsense misinformation about the Harlequin but I'm just gonna throw it out there anyway.
Throw it out there
and make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. And Fred's jumping out of his seat right now, being like, wrong.
Yeah.
But so I'm gonna like glaze over all this stuff. They only made a few hundred of them, right? We're going to,
Yep.
so that's accurate.
Yep.
Like 300 something, 280 something, 285.
Yeah, something like that.
That's
Yep.
not right either.
I
but
don't
like
know.
a few hundred. They
Yep.
only made a few
It's
hundred.
under 500.
Under 400.
Under 400.
Under 3 maybe.
Maybe.
A few hundred.
I feel like
Now-
every time a Harlequin comes up, I feel like I should know more about them, like how many were made and like
I don't
stuff
know.
like
It's
that.
just- it's a weird crew of people that like those cars. Shout out to Danny Rice, Fred White, Ross Couples,
Yeah.
and anyone else who has a Harlequin. Now, I was gonna say, if I remember correctly, didn't they start as like some like it was either a PR thing or it was like we have a bunch of respray panels. Let's just throw these things together. Was there a PR thing about that car?
What I believe, and I could be wrong. I believe they put them together to put on display in their showrooms to show available colors.
Right. Okay. So I was gonna look up real quick. VW
The special colors.
Harlequin. Right. Okay. Let's see here. We're gonna read right from the Wikipedia.
One free Google search.
Yep. Yeah. Nope. I'm not as good as young Jamie.
Yeah, I know it. We need a young Jamie behind the scenes.
I'm just staring at all the Google results, looking at YouTube videos, like, which is the best one to click on here?
Yeah.
Thank God that's not my job for those podcasts. To, like,
I
bring
know.
up something on the screen right away. Like, okay, well, we're abandoning that. Regardless. So here's the deal.
Something like that.
Here's what I do know. They made 4 base colors, right? So there were 4 renditions of these multicolored cars.
Yep. There are 4 colors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 4 base colors.
Yeah.
So Ross's first new car. This should be a Ross Couples episode.
I know.
Because I really just want to get to the Polo, but I'm talking about some cool stuff. So anyway, yeah, we're bunny trailing hard. So Ross's first car was a '98 Harlequin. That was his first car, first brand new car.
Yeah.
So he still has that car, but then since the collection started, he bought one of each base color Harlequin. So he's got 5.
Yeah.
But he's got all 4 of the base colors. Well, he's since sold all 4, and he had this weird disillusion that he was going to sell all 4 to one person. I said, listen, Ross, there's not too many people out there like you who have to have all 4 base colors or have the money to spend on 4 Golfs. Right?
Yeah.
But he did sell all 4 of them, keeping his original like new car. He sold all 4 for right around, if not more than MSRP.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is unbelievable.
Totally believe it.
Mid-teens.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So anyway, he sold those. We were talking about some of the cars that what other cars he wanted to sell. And he mentioned that facelift Polo coupe. And I love Polos. I've bought a couple off of them. And so that was kind of in the back of my head, like all last year. And then coming into this year, starting the LUDWICK'S garage space, taking the unit on, opening the garage. Well, I say opening as if I'm taking work on. Getting in there, moving into a garage space, and looking at projects with more of a beginning to end to moving into someone else's hands, aka selling, with more of that in mind. I've been kind of like, even when I'm at capacity for my own projects, I'm kind of looking around more. I'm like, all right, maybe it's time for me to like invest more money into some of these projects in order to lock in, finish, and sell. So when this shop space came to pass, or the idea of getting a shop space, before I bought the Q45 home, we had talked about the Polo coupe. Then Alex Bermudez calls me and says, hey, let's figure something out with this G50 Q45. I fly to LA in November and I drive it 3,500 miles home.
Yep.
For anyone listening, I did do a YouTube series of bringing the Q45 3,500 miles home, but we did it as a BMX trip, Alex. It was one of my old team managers, one of my BMX team managers for the Take. Shout out to the Take for being my first pro sponsorship with BMX. Alex was my team manager. And I spent a lot of my travel budget money in Southern California staying at his house in the winters. So we're both kind of washed up, old BMXers. And so we did this BMX trip. We brought 2 cars, including the Q45. We brought our bikes, and we rode all these famous skate parks and famous spots along the Southwest all the way home. And so there's a lot of YouTube videos. If you look back over the last fall, those are in there. But I brought the Q home. That was a last second deal. I'm like, all right, with the LUDWICK'S garage space, I'll bag this car. I'll do some things. I'll make it like a cool Japanese rendition of a Nissan President, and then I'll sell it or do a giveaway or something.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in the process of starting that, right? So I got into the shop, furnished the shop, getting into that. I fly to Florida for Eurotripper, which I've already talked about on the podcast. Paul Barney, who puts that show on, has also started the Alpine Volks Fair show series in Helen, Georgia, where Solo used to be, which I've talked about on this podcast before, some of the hellish trips.
Yes.
we will talk about the 2014 trip into Corvair one of these days.
That's right.
Episodes. We did talk about 2013 in the 190. Shout out to 190s and 190s everywhere, including your garage.
Yes.
Or your parking lot.
Yeah.
And so people were wondering, since last year didn't happen because it was so close to the beginning of this pandemic and nobody knew what was going on, people were wondering if he was going to hold it this year. Well, he just announced the dates. He's been flying up to Helen, sitting down with local government, local council people, and it's happening. It's happening. So he calls me or texts me basically before he makes the announcement saying, we're on. We're on. And the Volkswagen community has been dying for this show to go through because Helen, Georgia, for those listening who don't know, is an Austrian-built town in the middle of the Smoky Mountains in Georgia, in North Georgia. And I know you haven't been there yet.
No, man.
But when you drive down, you're driving to the Smoky Mountains, and it's like you're lost in the Smokies. You're climbing, you're descending, it's windy roads. Then all of a sudden you descend down into this little river town with this big chapel, like the steeple, like it's this little town, but it's all Austrian Bavarian architecture. Like it's insane. You've just driven through southern Tennessee, North Georgia into Austria.
Yep.
Like it's wild. Even the Huddle House, which is basically the cheap Waffle House. The Huddle House and Wendy's in town, the architecture of the building is like Austrian decor. It's wild. It's
crazy.
Everything. It's almost like if you want to have a business or a building in Helen, it has to be to code to look like that.
Yep.
So it's quite an incredible destination. It's right on a river. There's like, you can go river tubing. There's all sorts of crazy stuff you can do there. So anyway, dates go through. We're on for 2021 Alpine Volks Fair. Immediately, because I brought the BMW 700 there. We didn't do it last year. He did it. 2019 was the first year of the show. That was the show that my dad and I were hammering the BMW 700 to get done in time for.
Yeah.
So then I trailered it. I drove the Corvair there in 2014. That took a solid 8 to 10, maybe 11 years off my life.
Yeah.
Like solid. Like I will die sooner
Yeah.
because of that trip.
Of course.
So with Alpine, at the time that was called Alpine Vag Fair for Volkswagen Audi Group. He changed the name to Alpine Volks Fair because of Volkswagen Audi Group copyright.
Oh, okay.
That's why I changed the name.
Yeah, I was wondering.
I like the name anyway. I like the new name anyway.
I like Volks Fair.
Because people who don't know anything about Volkswagen Audi Group don't understand what Alpine Vag Fair is.
Yeah.
People are like, Vag?
Yeah.
Vag Fair? Like, what's this?
Yeah.
So, Alpine Volks Fair. So I trailered the 700 down. People were like, you going to drive it? And I'm like, I don't want to die at 60 of natural causes because of these trips. But I thought about it.
Natural causes.
I did think about it.
Yeah.
And I still want to. Here's the crazy thing. This is a little bit of a bunny trail. Sorry, everybody. I want to drive.
Sorry to everyone.
I'm sorry to everyone, for everyone who listens to the last podcast on the web.
Yeah.
I want to drive Route 66 in the 700.
Okay.
Like all of it. Like all the way to
all of it.
All the way to the Santa Monica Pier. Turn around and
all of it.
All of it. Because that gentleman who's like in his early 40s from New Hampshire drove his 1929 Model A alone in the middle of the pandemic last year, like midsummer. Alone drove his 1929 Model A, bone stock Model A.
Yeah.
All the way to the Santa Monica Pier on Route 66, turned around and came all the way back. He may have transported it home. I don't remember. But he did drive all of Route 66 alone in a Model A 1929 or 28. But regardless, insanity.
Total insanity.
But I think doing it in the 700 is crazier.
It'll be faster.
Yeah.
Than the Model A. I mean.
But way less comfortable.
Yeah.
I guarantee
maybe.
that Model A seat, that like sprung like seat, like, oh dude.
But like no suspension. Like barely any suspension.
I think that leaf suspension is way better than the 700 is on air.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's say it's equivalent.
Okay. We'll say it's
that
equal.
thing is just as prone to break down as that Model A would have been.
Yeah.
It's a Beetle motor. Of course it's going to break down.
You can get parts for it though.
Yeah, and you can get parts for a Model A.
Can you? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, luckily I think that enthusiast market's pretty strong too, that community.
Yeah, true.
So I'm pretty sure there'd be guys on the middle of Missouri that would have Model A parts. But anyway, I want to drive 66 in like something stupid, like the Corvair Or now I might have to alter the seats in it.
Yeah.
So it can recline and it's a little bit more comfortable than the aluminum bomber seats.
Literally with
The
half inch of leather and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I thought about driving the 700 to Helen, and I was like, no, I better not. So for this year, right? Okay, so we're back on track with what's going on right now. I know we bunny trailed. So Paul announces that Alpine Volks Fair is going on May 23rd or 22nd. Let me pull that up. Yeah, since we're saying this. I keep saying May 20th, but it's because I want to be in Helen by the 20th.
Right.
So I'm pulling it up right now. We're going to get this right now. So Alpine Volks Fair, May 20th through the 23rd. So I'm pretty sure that's right. Thursday through Saturday.
Yeah.
Or Friday through Sunday. So 20th to the 23rd. He announces that, and immediately I'm thinking, well, it'd be like, I want to go. Paul was like, when I was in Fort Myers for Eurotripper, he's like, if the show goes through, you should come down. Even Jason, who helps put on Eurotrip with Paul, was like, you should come down. We should do a Governor's Club meet, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it's too far. It's 20 hours each way.
And they want mostly
Volkswagen
Audis.
Yeah. But like, yeah, Paul's looking at this show different. He wants to do like small, like not even like one concentrated show, just like organized, sanctioned pop-up meets around Helen.
Yeah.
Like drive to Cleveland, Georgia, which is like 20 minutes out one way. And then other surrounding towns, like have encourage people to drive out and explore the area and do a pop-up meet out here, a pop-up meet out there or whatever. So Jason's like, we should do something. And I'm like, it's too far. And I've already brought the 700 and like, I mean, it'd be cool to have it there again, but I'm like, it's just too far. So he announces the dates, we're on. And immediately I'm like, the Polo.
Yep.
And I'm like, I've taken on more than I can chew. Like I've bit off more than I can chew with this shop space financially, furnishing the shop space, taking on the Q45. Like work's been kind of like up and down. It's been like a inconsistent, income kind of deal. But I'm like, I got to make it happen. I got to get that Polo coupe from Ross. I gotta and it's like 5 weeks away at this point.
Yeah.
I'm like, and building suspension for it. Luckily, I've built a couple of those systems before. Yes, there are some off-the-shelf bag and coilover setups from Europe for this type of suspension setup, but there are some restrictions as to what that suspension setup, like that OEM style, is capable of. Mm-hmm. And so in past projects, I've converted it to Mark 1 or Mark 2 style suspension where, I can talk about that in a minute. But anyway, like a pretty involved suspension conversion, do wheels, clean it up aesthetically, do a few bits, do some Euro bits, just make it. I mean, it's a rare car here in the States anyway. Drive it to Georgia and back. Like blast the content, document this whole thing, every nut and bolt, every detail, which is what I've been doing. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube, like the last 5 to 10 episodes have been about this project.
Yeah.
And I'm like exhausting myself on it. And so I drive straight to Ross's. The day Paul announced that we were on with the dates, I drove to Ross's and said, let's figure something out. Like, I can't be taking on a project right now, but I feel like this has to happen.
Yeah.
So we worked out a deal. By the end of the day, I went and got the car out of his unit and got it to my unit.
You sent a text to me with photos and you're like, hey, you want to drive this to Helen?
Yeah. I was just, because I need someone else to suffer with me.
Yeah.
So...
Yep.
So
I'm always down. So
and immediately I was like, here we go. 1991 Euro spec Mark IIF Polo coupe from Germany. Gonna build custom air suspension. Gonna work with bag riders. Gonna set up some custom wheels. I don't want to blow too much smoke, but it looks like Rotiform's coming on board. I've known Jason and Brian for almost a decade. I've never owned a set of Rotiforms.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
I'm just a vintage wheel guy. I like vintage wheels. I don't have anything against like newer wheel companies, but I've just never had the opportunity to work with them on a project. Nothing's ever like kind of been the right fit. So with the time window being so tight, I'm not sure if I was going to be able to find, like, say, the set of RSs that I wanted to use and the right specs and all that. So I spoke with Jason last week, and we're working something out right now. So I'm hoping to do a lot of this documenting of this project for Rotiform, and I'm hoping we can land on something in the next few days to make something happen. And
it's crunch time.
I got to get him specs if we're going to get wheels made and shipped out in time in like 4 weeks now. So... Yeah. So everything. Ross and I land on a deal. I get the car. Mechanically needs some work. It's like not running right. And I'm like, oh, we gotta figure that out.
Yeah.
So, but
all little
stuff. But it does run.
Yeah, it does run. It's all
moves.
little stuff.
Yep. Got it in the shop. Took the wheels off. The second I took the hubcap off, the driver's side axle doesn't even have the nut on it. Like the 30 millimeter nut that holds the axle to the car and holds the wheel bearing.
Holds the wheel bearings in place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which holds the hub to the car.
Yep.
Which holds the wheel to the car. Unbelievable. Yep. So this is why I didn't mention who imported the car.
I know.
So I know who imported the car. You know who imported the car. It's a shop. And I mean, like I said, I've said this to you plenty of times. I miss a lot of things. I'm not a tech. I'm not some master car builder. There's going to be plenty of things that I miss.
I'm borderline master tech and I miss some things.
Exactly. We all do. But a giant 30 mil nut on that axle. And I mean, even say you import the car and you don't do anything to it, you just put it around. Just to make sure those lug nuts or lug bolts are tight, I'd take the hubcaps off. And then when you take the hubcap off, you see that the giant nut that's like holding the front of that car together isn't there. I'm like, I better go get one of those.
Yeah, like we were talking, if you leave that nut off and you try to drive the car, you won't get more than 20, 30 miles. And that wheel bearing is coming apart.
Yeah.
Like violently.
Unreal. Yeah, so crazy. So I'm not throwing them under the bus. People miss things. It was a surprise to me because it's a pretty wild thing to miss. But it makes me believe that he imported the car and just like didn't even take a hubcap off and just drove it around assuming the wheels were on tight. Or that maybe the axle nuts were on. But see, so experiences like this hone my senses and my skills.
Yeah, yeah.
Because now when I pick up a car, I'm going to be like, does that have axle nuts? Because it obviously it should.
It may not.
But it clearly may not have axle nuts on the car. It may not have wheels on the car.
Yeah.
Are wheels on this car?
Man.
So anyway, so that was a wake up call. But I'm ditching all that stuff anyway because I'm going to Mark 1. Everything's going to be Mark 1. So let's explain that for a minute. I don't even know where I
was trying to think of something witty to come up. Yeah. Just awkward silence for a minute here.
3 thoughts came to the front of my face and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what one to pick. Because I was going to drink water. I was going to say I was going to quench my thirst, but then I was thinking about Polo and axle nuts and I'm like, I'm going to quench my axle nut.
And now a moment from our sponsor.
Yes. A few moments later.
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh. Here's what we are doing. I was going to do this at the beginning of this episode. We're going to do a root beer review at the end of this episode.
Heck yes.
The reason why we didn't do it at the beginning is the last time I did this alone and talked about this root beer and drank half of this root beer before I started talking, my voice was just all over the place and super dry and syrupy and just like, I couldn't, it destroyed me. So here I am trying to talk for another hour, being like, this was the worst decision ever. So I think what I figured out, and shout out to everybody who sent me root beer. I got a fridge full of root beers.
So great.
And I'm trying to check these. I've only done one. I did one from Braden from Canada.
Yeah.
So today is Alex McGinnis. So Alex, if you're listening to this.
Shout out to Alex.
Yeah. So Alex sent me a handful back like a month ago or more. But we're doing a special one today. And he did send me 2. Excuse me. He did send me 2. And it was one that I hadn't had, but it was one that I'd wanted to always try. So I've already drank one.
Yeah.
Right. I've already
fine.
I've already got the review done, but we're gonna pretend like I haven't. And since I only have one left, I was saving it. And I told you this earlier. I was gonna just keep it for myself. But since you're here, we'll get 2 glasses out. We'll split her up.
I appreciate it.
You haven't had this one either. I don't think. It's so good. But I'm gonna act like I don't know, and I'm gonna like be like, wow. So anyway, that's coming at the end. What were we talking about? Axle nuts.
Yeah.
The Polo. Yeah. So what I've done with my Volkswagen 10 years ago. So this was a car that surprisingly was on the cover and centerfold poster of Eurotuner magazine. November issue of 2011. Listen, this thing was like just rattle canned, flat tan, total military drab kind of look. Mm-hmm. Had the 2-seater mini tank that fit in the back of it.
It did, man. It was a package.
It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. But it was not the main cover, but it was like a split cover. It had a photo on the cover. It had a 2-page spread in the contents section, a 6-page feature with 2-page two 2-page spreads in that 6-page feature and the centerfold poster.
Yes.
Which was it monopolized that issue. Blew my mind, right?
Yep.
I mean, here's a rattle-canned Volkswagen, which are the coolest looking Volkswagens ever.
They are.
Because it looks like a
cool.
Toyota Corolla. It's like a Japanese looking kind of car. 2-door wagon with this huge side glass. So again, there's not a lot of off-the-shelf parts available suspension-wise for those cars.
Yeah, especially back then.
Right, exactly. BrazilShopping.com.
Brazil shop.
Let's bring it up.
Pulls it out.
Dude.
That sounds made up.
You can buy clothing, you can buy groceries, and you can buy lowering springs for foxes.
Weird.
Yep. I have gone down the rabbit hole.
Super weird.
Brazil shopping. Let me see here. Brazil shopping.
Is this episode also brought to everyone by them?
Yes, this episode is brought to you by Brazil Shopping, where you can buy groceries, apples, and fox lowering parts. All right. I'm not going to go through this whole thing right now. It's still up. It's still a website. I don't know if it's the same website.
It's there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was real crazy. But you could buy lowering springs from BrazilShopping.com 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's more available. But what I did was I used Mark II parts. So for the layman, I guess, the setup in the Fox is a strut assembly and knuckle hub system that's all one piece. Much like, as I mentioned before, the Audi 4000s, the B1, B2 Passat Quantum Dasher series cars.
Like an
E30.
E30.
The Polos.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like an E30, like a Saab.
Except for the steering setup.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I just mean the one
the
piece
knuckle
strut.
Yep. Knuckle
assembly.
strut assembly's all one piece.
Yeah.
But to throw one more, like I say, stupid design, some weird design in the mix, is unlike the Rabbits, Golfs, and Jettas, where, in like Corrado and all that stuff, where the steering rack's down on the subframe and the tie rods come out to a steering arm on the knuckle, like a tie rod mount. The steering rack's on the firewall behind the wheels, not in front.
And it comes through the body.
Comes through the inner fender.
Yep.
And there's a plate, like a mount that comes up off the strut tube halfway up the strut body and meets the tie rod up there, not down at the knuckle. So anyone that was going to make coilovers or any sort of bolt-in bag application for this car had to build a strut assembly with that steering mount built into it, with the correct Ackerman angle to the hub, and the knuckle all as one piece.
Yeah.
So it was quite a bit of tooling and research and development to design something like this. And for the amount of cars and oddball cars that had this type of suspension, it really wasn't worth. There was really no ROI on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
there really wasn't.
You're going to have everybody trying to buy coilovers for GTIs, but not a lot of people trying to buy coilovers for Fox Coupes.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So for the Fox, I decided to go Mark II coilovers, Mark II knuckles, right? So that converted to a 2-piece coilover knuckle system. So you could go lower, but you had camber adjustment at the bottom if you didn't have it up at the top, or now you had both. But it also gave you easier to find parts, like brake parts, wheel bearing parts, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So did Mark II knuckles, but because the steering rack is behind the wheels and not in front, like the Golfs and Jettas, the brakes are indexed opposite as well.
Right.
So if you're going to run the Mark II knuckles, you got to run the driver's side on the passenger side of the Fox and vice versa. So, or on passenger side to the driver's side. So luckily for me, or luckily for anyone that's done this with Foxes, the Mark II hubs and axles, outer CV joint axles, spline count and sizes are the same as the Fox. So the Mark II Golf hubs slide over, or the Fox axles, I should say, slide into the Mark II hubs, right? And one farther, the ball joint tapers on the Fox control arms are the same as the Mark II ball joint tapers, so the Mark II knuckle fits down over the ball joint. The only real fabrication required is to weld on to fabricate a steering plate mount up on the strut body of the coilover, which is kind of sketchy because you're welding to a coilover that's got flammable fluids, unvented flammable fluids inside the coilover. Compressed inside the body. Yeah. So I did that for the Fox. And that car was on 13x6 Chevy Vega wheels.
That's right.
And I built 3-inch drop plates for the rear, so the spindles basically body dropped the car. And that car drove on the ground. Like it just drove up.
Straight up
I had
on
to
the
like
ground.
move my fuel and brake lines around to like go up beyond the frame rails. So because they were like lowest part of the car for a while. And that was a problem. So I'm going to do another episode, preferably with you here, so I can like bounce stuff off of. But I'm going to do another episode of my trip to Ocean City 2010 and back in that car on the ground, 14 hours each way in the pouring rain, touching the ground at all times.
Survived to tell the story.
Which means bridge expansion joints and like insane. If you listen to the episode with Aiden and we talk about Fable. Driving to and from Ocean City with the Miata. Similar trip, except I didn't blow my windshield out. And I only attribute that to Volkswagen building better windshield seals than Mazda did. So
better unibodies.
Yeah. So on the Derby, when I got the Derby, I figured it would be the same go around, Mark II knuckles, et cetera, et cetera. Then I realized that everything was smaller on the Polo Derby, but they were closer comparison to the Mark I Rabbits. So I'm like, all right, instead of Mark II stuff, which is obviously larger wheel bearing, larger axles, all that stuff, I'll do Mark I Rabbit Jetta that's smaller. So what I didn't realize on the Derby was that the outer Derby Polo CV joint axle spline count was significantly smaller than the Rabbit one. Yes. So the Rabbit hub, the spline hole in the hub that the axle passes through, was much larger than the Polo one. So now I was like, well, shoot. I checked everywhere for spline counts, sizes. I checked for everything. Maybe bigger Polo axles.
Yeah.
That had the same inner CV joint, so everything could bolt into the transaxle just fine, to no avail. So then ultimately what happened was I solicited my friend Nick Acton up the street here, who does all the Shelby Cobra stuff. He's got a machine shop, one-man operation, but a small machine shop, and built axles. So what I did was we cut axles in half, pinned and doweled, sleeved them, balanced them.
I remember you came and grabbed some axles for me. I don't think you ended up using them.
I didn't, because I think they were
late Mark 1. They were Mark 1.5 Cabrio.
Yes,
so
they
bigger,
were larger,
even bigger.
Like 100 mil axles. Or whatever. Yeah, they weren't the 90s that I needed.
Yeah,
but thanks for that.
Yeah, of course.
I thanked you then.
I
think you wanted
6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think you only wanted like Governors Club stickers for them.
I did. Yeah, I totally remember.
Funny. Yeah, because I went to your shop, you weren't there. You had the axles in the car, and I left the Governors Club stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those didn't work. But what the plan was to cut, join, and balance axles that had Mark I Rabbit outers in the Polo inners, so I could fit the Mark I Rabbit hubs.
Yeah.
So we did that. That was quite a bit of work, but it was really cool because basically what Nick does is Nick is a phenomenal teacher. And I love learning stuff. I love learning machining. He's got a Bridgeport. He's got a lathe. So basically he would help me set the machines up for the operations. He'd help me tool up. But then from there, all the math and all the operation running was me. I did the production of everything. So it was really kind of cool. So, he's like the hand on the instrument where he like, I understand when you're turning things down and you want to go a millimeter, you go half a mil because you're taking it off both sides.
Yeah.
So I understood.
That's a learning curve too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, because if you take too much off, you're like, oh, shoot. Because now it's
I
over.
need to go down a mil. You go down a mil, you measure and you're down 2 mil. You're like, oh.
Yeah, that's
scrap whatever you're working
that's
on.
How diameters work.
Yeah, I know. But like if you're not thinking about it.
Right. Well, yeah, if you're turning a diameter, you're going half mil,
but
then as it turns, it's taking a half mil over there too, which is 1 mil. So which acts like a windmill.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah. So anyway, so never mind. Cut that out. And producers in the sound room. Yeah. So the axles were a super fun but challenging road we went down on that. And then obviously I had to weld on the tie rod mounts, the coilovers, which again were kind of sketchy. I had my dad help me weld those ones because I had a bad vibe for some reason. I'd done.
Listen, man. I think you and I have talked about. I've seen someone blow up a strut in their face. You blew one up.
My dad and I both.
That's
my dad
right.
were on the airlift one on the E23.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We just went, and that's the thing. Like you're supposed to weld to them.
Yep.
Even if you read their instructions for like people who aren't fabricators, it even says make 3 3/4 inch passes around like while moving heat. Right?
Yes, and yeah.
So because there's contained flammable unvented fluid in there, right? So it's basically a bomb.
Yep, literally.
So we were welding. I was holding the spindle because we were welding the sleeve to the spindle to the actual strut body. We had it jigged up and I had to like hold it just right. So I'm standing over this while my dad's welding it. and I'm basically just like blocking my eyes, and he's got his hood on, and we're MIG welding it, and I can hear the weld change tone aggressively all of a sudden, and I knew, like split second, knew something was happening, and the thing blew. But luckily, the way it blew was it punctured a hole, but the fluid was under pressure, so it was spraying out, but it was a flamethrower because it was on fire. So it's like a flamethrower. And it was hitting my father right in the front of the hood and wrapping around the hood, like going into his, like under the hood where his face is. And I'm right there too. I'm inches away as well. But luckily that is only pressurized, like, it seemed like it happened forever, but it was like a quick burst and then it was over. A couple singed eyebrow hairs. Everyone's okay. Yeah. Everyone's all right. So shout out to Bag Riders for sending me another one of those. Yeah. But that was a learning curve. So with the coilovers, we were doing the coilovers before this incident with the E23, but I was just kind of like, I just had a bad vibe. I was like, my dad's got 40 years welding experience over me. And I'm like, well, I'll be here for moral support. And I helped jig everything up. I made the gussets for him and all that stuff. And so that the Derby got done, super fun car, had it on 13-inch ATS Classics, drove it to dust off, took it to Wolfsgart 2 years, and then sold it to ultimately fund the E23 project.
That's right.
So now with the Polo, similar setup. But there's a wild card piece of information that I did not know when I did the Derby. And I've already said this in the YouTube episodes. Shout out to Joe Stackman in the UK. This was vital. So I feel like this was the VW Vortex days. I felt like this was 2010 again, where I'm a fly on the wall on all these forums. I'm digging up like old forum conversations, looking for information, and like digging through the bowels of the Volkswagen community internet, looking for like tolerances and sizes and spline counts and IDs of this and ODs of that, and like looking for all this stuff to try to figure out how I can do this suspension without having to make axles again, because I was not looking forward to that. So, especially with the window of time we have. So, Joe was watching one of the YouTube episodes where I'm explaining this whole deal, and he messages me and goes, "Hey man, I just watched your YouTube video." Now, Joe has a pre-facelift Mark II coupe on hydraulics on Juice that is a wild rig. Mm-hmm. Joe's Instagram, let me pull it up. Joe's Instagram is, because shout out to Joe, go check his stuff out. He's got some really cool stuff.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of cool stuff.
It's just Joe Stackman.
Yeah, I thought so.
Stackman, Joe Stackman. Yeah. So he's got a really cool Mark II Polo coupe, but he goes, "Hey man, like, so I did Mark I hubs on my Polo back a few years ago, but instead of making axles, I pressed my Polo hubs out of the Polo wheel bearing and knuckle, and they fit in the Mark I wheel bearing and knuckle."
Yes.
And I'm like, what? I didn't even think to try that on the Derby.
Yeah, it's
because I assumed, obviously we all know what happens, but I assumed that since the axle was a significantly smaller size than the Rabbit, there's no way the hub was going to be the same.
Right.
But you know what I didn't do? Take 10 minutes to press that hub out in a press and then check sizes.
Yeah.
I just went right to option D and made axles.
Yeah.
Which I'm grateful for. I mean, it's a great learning experience.
Of course.
I'm glad that's under my belt now. But holy cow. Like, so what I did in the most recent YouTube episode, I went to my friend Pete's place at an undisclosed location, who has a holy grail Volkswagen graveyard.
Yeah.
You haven't been there with me yet.
Nope.
Now, I went there on a weekday. Otherwise, I would have taken you with me, because it would be a treat. Much like Steve's place where I got the 700. Mm-hmm. Insane place. So, longtime friend of the family. I kind of described him on the last YouTube video. Went to him for Mark I hubs, because he has a trailer right full of them.
Yeah.
Full of them. Mark I, early Mark I, 75 to 80, 81 to 84, GTI, Mark II, Mark III, Corrado, they all changed. So I'm looking through. The hardest part was I didn't have a car where I took them off of, and I go, that is a 78 Rabbit. And these are the knuckles off a 78 Rabbit. So when I search for wheel bearings, brake caliper carriers, and the calipers and pads, I know I'm looking for a 1977 Volkswagen Rabbit front end parts. So I'm just looking at knuckles and hubs in a tractor trailer. And I quickly realized this was a learning experience. I knew that there were some changes between Mark 1, Mark 2, and then Mark 2, 3, B3, and Corrado were all pretty much the same, depending on the brakes and the axle sizes. So the Mark 1 knuckles, the tie rod mount that comes off the knuckle is straight, comes straight off. The Mark 2 bends down a little bit.
Okay.
Right? So and I started to put all this together because I'm looking at all these knuckles and I'm like, how do I figure out, because they're the same style. It's got an upright with 2 holes in it that the coilover bolts do. 2 bolts that hold it together. Now, the Mark 1 does have smaller holes, right? So you could size that up. Like the Mark 2 and up took bigger hardware, so they got bigger bore holes.
Yeah.
So, but at first glance, the Mark 1 Rabbit tie rod mount comes straight off where the hub mounts. The Mark II bends down, right? But not only does the Mark II tie rod mount bend down, it's got a molded in casted caliper carrier.
Right.
The carrier bracket is molded into the cast of the knuckle.
Yeah.
Whereas the Mark I is bolt on.
Yeah.
So on the Mark I knuckle, there are 2 ears that come out with 2 holes that 2 bolts obviously bolt the carrier to, then your caliper slides into that. So once I figured all that out, I'm looking for the 2 bolt separate carrier with the straight tie rod. So I found those, but I took my Polo hubs with me. So I pressed out the hubs. I'm like, I'm following Joe's recommendation here because I don't want to make axles. So I took the hubs with me, and I've got, now when you turn the knuckle upside down, that's got a hub pressed into it. You can fit the other hub like to meet it, and you can kind of tell because there's a little bit of that inner diameter wheel bearing left in there, so you can kind of fit it in,
right?
And you can kind of like see if it'd be a press and fit or if it's too small and wouldn't fit at all and it would just like fall into it. So I was checking fitment on a bunch of those, and a lot of those Mark 1 knuckles were a larger ID inner diameter of the wheel bearings than the OD of the Polo hub flange. So they were too big, just like I assumed on my Derby.
Yeah.
Every one. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is... So I'm thinking there had to have been a smaller suspension, smaller front end Mark 1 Golf, what we call the Rabbit, in Europe than we got here in the States, because we never got a 1 liter, a 1.1, or a 1.3 Rabbit. We got the 1.5 and up.
Yeah.
So I assumed maybe from the 1.0 to 1.3 Rabbit, then the 1.5 to the 2 liter were different sizes. So now I'm convinced, well, now I'm SOL because I'd need somebody to send me wheel bearings or even knuckles from England or Europe in order to do this. At which point, to save time and cost of shipping, I might as well just make axles.
Yeah.
So I'm striking out on all these knuckles as I'm putting the hubs into. And I'm going to explain this more in detail in another YouTube episode, so you've got a lot of visual that goes with this. But it wasn't until I was back in Pete's shop, like I was alone in the trailer trying to figure all this stuff out. And I just took 2 Mark 1 knuckles out anyway. And so now I've got a right and a left because obviously those aren't mirrored.
Yeah.
The caliper carriers are, thankfully. So I found a couple of the caliper carriers. And I tell Pete the deal about what I'm dealing with this whole hub size and wheel bearing size. So Pete's got a drawer with a bunch of Mark 1 wheel bearings in it. So he pulls out the drawer and he's like, oh, we'll try them on these. So sure enough, inner diameter of the wheel bearing, too big. We're fitting it down over the shaft of the Polo hub. Too big. But these are all loose. I say loose, but they're sealed. But these are all wheel bearings sitting in this drawer that are just loose wheel bearings. Like there's no, like, they're not in boxes or bags.
Right.
So even if they worked, you'd have to search on there praying that there'd be a part number on there, right? So we get to the back, and the only wheel bearing that's in a box is in the back of this drawer. So he pulls out a box. He's like, oh, here's one with a part number on it. Well, so he takes that out, right?
Yep.
Takes it out. But I'm thinking they're all the same. All these are too big. None of these work. These are all Mark 1 wheel bearings. So there's got to be a smaller one from Europe, a Euro spec Rabbit that's smaller, and we don't get them here.
Right.
So he takes out this box, opens it up, and as if we're going to lose already, he's like, well, there's a part number on it. So if for some reason this one works, there's a part number on it. It fits. We put it on, and you can tell, because it won't slide in. You got to press it in. But it's obvious that this is the right tolerance.
Dang.
And I'm like, no way. And it has a part number on it because he only had 1. He didn't have 2.
Yeah, lucked out.
I couldn't believe it. So here we are cross-referencing part numbers. Shout out to ECS Tuning, who's kind of come on as like an unofficial sponsor of this car. So I went through them for a lot of these like maintenance stuff that I need, like ignition,
like
fuel,
OEM stuff,
OEM parts. Yeah, exactly. So I couldn't believe it. So the one thing I haven't tested to know for sure, but I'm 99% sure, I guess, out of speculation, is whether or not the OD of that wheel bearing will fit inside the ID of the knuckle. But it's got to.
Yeah.
It's got to.
Yeah.
There's no other application for it here in the States. So I have yet to find that out. But as far as I know, it's time to celebrate because I don't have to make axles, and I can push this wheel bearing. I can punch everything out of this knuckle that I've got now, the Mark 1 knuckles. I can press this wheel bearing in, get wheel seals, push the wheel bearing in, and press these Polo hubs in. And now, voila, I'm running my Polo axles that'll just fit into this thing.
And if an axle ever fails, you don't have to build another one.
Exactly.
You can replace it.
And I've got a ripped boot on the passenger outer CV joint. So actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I have to, which I have to get from Europe.
Yeah.
Because that's a Europe only thing. So I've got to get that ordered tomorrow.
Yeah. Luckily, things are coming shipped from Europe quicker.
Yep,
than,
pretty quick.
Than in the States sometimes.
Even recently.
Yeah.
So I got to do that. I'm praying that's good to go. Now that I've since the Mark 1 Rabbit hubs are 4x100 as well as the Polo, I've been able to test fit wheels.
Yep.
With stuff just kind of thrown together and bolted in the car real quick. I haven't fabricated the tie rod mount. I haven't gotten the Polo hubs pressed in. We haven't done any of that stuff yet. But I was able to get the front knuckle mounted down over the ball joint. Now, here's the other thing about the ball joint, because I mentioned tapers with the Fox and Mark II. The Mark 1s didn't use a tapered ball joint. I know you know this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of explaining
it.
Yeah. But like the Mark 1s were a straight bore in the knuckle with a ball joint that had an indent in the shaft that a bolt passes through and holds it into the car. So luckily, and here's the other thing. I put my dial calipers on my ball joint on the Polo, and it was a 17 millimeter ball joint diameter. When I went to Pete's, I was putting my calipers up in some of these Mark 1 knuckles, and they're reading like 18 and a half, maybe even 19, like bigger, like significantly bigger. Where I'm like, that doesn't even clamp down that far to 17. So now what I'm looking at all these crazy different things. These are all supposedly Mark 1 knuckles, and I don't know when they changed all this crazy stuff.
No one knows. Like you and I talked about, no one knows when all these things change.
I may be the only person that knows. Because I've gone this far.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, somebody else obviously knows, someone who's worked on all this stuff. But I feel like I know way more than I should because I've had these weird projects where it requires me to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
And there's no like person you can call or like book you can just read and be like, I need this, this, and this is where I can find them, and these are the part numbers.
Yeah.
So that makes these projects way more rewarding when it all finally starts to come together.
Of course.
Yeah. So the ball joint. So finally, I found the knuckles with the right ball joint size, right? And even that was pretty tight. But I went in there with a little Dremel and like cleaned it out, and they fit, and the bolt goes in, and everything's good. But those knuckles have been sitting in that trailer or out of a car for decades, probably.
Yeah.
So they needed to be cleaned up. So that worked. So ball joint is good. As far as I know, I found a wheel bearing that the Polo hub fits into, and that wheel bearing will more than likely press into the knuckle. So all that sorted. So the 2-piece caliper setup, I couldn't find a carrier. I couldn't find a caliper carrier that was going to fit properly.
Damn.
So I finally found a pair. Now, luckily they're mirrored, so it didn't matter if there was a left side or right side. But the problem is they were 75 to 80 Mark 1 Rabbit caliper carriers, which are the small calipers with the itty bitty little brake pads, the little square ones.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yep.
So the Polo is a little bit bigger than a Rabbit, like the Mark IIF Polo, and it's got 80 to 84 Mark 1 style brake pads, which are larger, a little bit more contoured to the rotor.
Yep.
So I was thinking, well, shoot, now I've got to downgrade brake size because these are the only caliper carriers I can find. And with time working against me, this is just what I have to use with, or what I have to work with. So I'm thinking, well, whatever. I just got to go to a smaller brake pad up front. It's not the end of the world. So I get back to the shop with all these parts, still kind of elated that I can use Polo stuff and I don't have to make axles. But then all of a sudden I'm looking in my parts cart where all the Polo stuff's sitting and realize, holy cow, the Polo knuckle is a 2-piece bolt-on caliper carrier. And that looks like the same bolt pattern as the Mark. Well, hold on a second.
Perfect.
So I take the Polo caliper carrier and walk over to the Mark 1 knuckle and bolt it on. And I'm like, no way.
Perfect.
So now it seems like Polo brake everything will work on the Mark 1 Rabbit knuckle. So I can just reuse all my Polo brakes.
Excellent.
So I can keep the brake size. I can keep my rubber hose. Everything's going to work just right. Fittings to the caliper. Everything's working right. The one thing I don't know is offset. I don't know how far that Polo hub is going to press into that knuckle. If it's going to change the offset once the rotor's on,
Right.
if the caliper carrier, when that bolts to the Mark 1 knuckle, if spacing is going to be weird, if the rotor will fit on the hub and everything will line up properly. I've yet to find that out, but I think I might be able to just shim things or
machine it down.
Machine that face down where it bolts to the knuckle or something. So, but it's looking like everything's coming together. So shout out to Joe Stackman. Holy cow.
The man.
I never even would have thought of that. I would have just gone right for making axles again, which is the hard way around, but it's a character building route.
Yeah.
For sure.
You get to run some machinery.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So where we're at with the Polo now, I'm not going to give too much away for the next YouTube episode, but Steve, I keep mispronouncing his name. I used to say Lafiere, but I think it's Lafaire. Lafaire? It's French.
Yeah.
Steve, thank you,
know.
Steve, so much. Steve's a good buddy of ours who, old mini trucking dude, phenomenal fabricator.
Full-size trucking dude, too.
Yep. Yeah, bodied a full-size full-size Dodge on 28s.
Yeah.
Bodied it on 28s.
Bodied, completely laid on the ground on 28s.
Had to alter the front fenders in order to do it, too.
I remember.
Crazy work. But he works in a body shop at a dealership, so he's like phenomenal paint and body man. So he's going to help do some paint work on the Polo. It's not a G40 supercharged Polo, so it's got just like the all plastic black bumpers. Top of the bumper, all the way down to the bottom of the valance, one piece, all black textured plastic.
Yep.
Looks super cheap. Looks like an afterthought.
Base model, yeah.
Awful looking. So much like the G40s, from the body line of the thin bumper, even though it's still one piece, down the valance where paint matches the car. So it matches the door cladding, the door trim, because underneath the door trim is paint.
Yeah.
So if you go underneath the bumper bar on the plastic bumpers and paint it, it just got to
pull the whole car.
Got a continuity around the car.
Pulls the whole car together.
Yep. So Steve came by today, picked up the bumpers. We're going to paint those. That's awesome. I'm super stoked to see the car kind of come to life that way too. So that's kind of up to date with the project with the Polo. It's got a really cool Euro only interior. The seats are really cool. It's got
cool.
It's got the Euro only real small 3-spoke steering wheel, which I've always wanted because I collect Volkswagen steering wheels.
Yep.
And I've always wanted that steering wheel. So it's really cool that I've got a Polo with that wheel in it now. But to bring everyone up to speed on the podcast, this car I'm planning on being the first Ludwig's Garage giveaway car.
Yep.
So somebody listening,
could be yours.
maybe even you, could win this car, Corey.
I thought about that. I was like, if I enter this
Dude, Ross said he's entering.
Yeah.
Ross goes, maybe I'll enter.
Yeah,
like it is
that's
his,
great.
well, it's mine now, but it was his car.
Yeah.
I said, dude, that's a win.
Yeah.
You have a stock car. I pay you for the car. You play the giveaway.
Yeah.
Possibly win. Now you get a way cooler car again. You can resell
And
it.
he wins it back, and everyone on the internet's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. That'd be suspect,
rigged
wouldn't
this.
it? Oh boy, I didn't think of that.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Like,
listen, right
this
here.
rigged.
Even if Corey wins it, if Ross wins it, I'm not playing. I'm not gonna win.
Yeah.
It's not suspect.
It's
I am
not rigged.
so excited to see who this car goes to. Trust me. Like this is the first giveaway I've ever done. And you know as well as I do, I've been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah,
I feel
literally.
like everybody and their cousin does car giveaways now. I've wanted to do car giveaways for like 8 years now because I always thought, dude, it would be so cool to not raffle a car.
Yeah, not raffle. And
I don't like the two main reasons I don't like raffling cars. One, the legality of it, right? FDIC, whatever. Like it's got to be a true. You got to go through a sweepstakes or raffle company in order for it to be legit. So you're not screwing anybody. Two, I don't like the idea of one winner and X amount of losers.
Yes.
Like everyone else is just giving you their money and you've
The money's
taken it
gone.
and that's it.
Nothing.
Like you didn't win the car. Sorry, but thanks for the money. Thanks for playing. I don't like that at all.
Yep.
I'm a part of this community just as much as everyone else. I'm not made of money. I'm doing what I can to stay afloat and make all this happen. And I love it. I love every aspect of the community, traveling around when we used to be able to travel to Europe.
Yeah.
Like meet people, talk to people who have, like-minded people who love the things that we love. I love it all. So playing this whole giveaway thing, I've always wanted to do a product giveaway where, same kind of deal. What you hear everybody exhausting you on the internet, on Instagram or Facebook, like, 10 times the entries and blah, blah, blah. So I don't want to do multipliers or anything
right.
like that.
No, it's.
But
different.
my thought process was pretty basic. For like every $10 you spend on the web store for product and merchandise, you get an entry to win the car, right? And maybe run it for like a month. And I want to figure out logistically how I can like make a certain amount
Yes.
to make sure everybody plays ball. I feel like enough people will play, in order to possibly win the car. Because, I want to make sure that the drawing is done right. You know, I want to look into like what it might cost to have a sweepstakes company handle that part of it or whatever. You know, I still have a lot of work to do there, but I like the idea of people like, it's fun, but people like spending money for merchandise, receiving that
Getting
merchandise.
a product.
Yes. Nobody really loses. People go on a web store and they choose what they want to buy. It's not like you got to just send PayPal friends and family $100 and once
so you spend $10, you get a $10 item.
Right.
But you could also win this car for that $10.
Exactly. Now, well, obviously, whoever wins the car is going to have to figure out like how to get here, how to get it. You're going to have to pay taxes on winning the car.
Yeah.
Or we like figure a bill of sale out.
Yeah.
I think if I was doing big time dollar cars, it would have to be like this weird giveaway type thing. But I think with this car, it can just be like a bill of sale for like, you know, $100 for the car.
Yeah.
Whatever you spent on the web store.
Exactly.
But,
I mean, that's legal.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But
I spent $25 and I won a car.
Yeah, and I'm not like a business that's doing this like on high dollar stuff every month where you understand like you have lawyers being like, oh, you got to do this. This is the first one. It's just getting my feet wet, and I'm sure this won't be a huge audience that plays, but that makes people's chances of winning better.
It does.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this isn't like some 80/80 giveaway for a McLaren 720.
I was just about to say, we didn't ball out and buy a brand new McLaren and put it on dumb wheels and like.
Even if I had a business that was booming enough that could afford a $200,000 car to give away, dude, I'd give away. I don't even know.
We've talked about this a lot.
I'm searching the memory banks for like some cool weird.
We'd
like
still give away K cars.
Like a Lada. Yeah. Like why not import a Lada wagon, put it on BBS E76s again, bag it, do something really cool, and give that away.
Yep.
Like I'd rather do something really. This is the thing I want to do. Everyone's giving away Skylines. Everyone's giving away Supras. I mean, those are cool. That's a cool car to win for buying a sweatshirt.
Yes.
Trust me, I'd love that. I haven't played any of those myself, but it'd be cool. But it'd be really cool to give away a bagged Lada from Russia. How cool would that be?
It's so
even
cool.
if somebody doesn't even want one, they buy a sweatshirt and like a beanie and they're like, I want a Russian Soviet car. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Everything's in Russian. I don't know what any of this means, but everybody's looking at me and waving.
Hey, does this thing have reverse?
Yeah, a month after selling it. Yeah, it's got reverse, bud. Just mess with the shifter a whole bunch.
Yeah.
It took me a while to figure it out too. Yeah. But yeah, so my thought process for everyone listening, is subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow along. I'm documenting everything. Bag Riders is on board. ECS Tuning's come on. It looks like Rotiform is going to be a part of this project. We're bringing some huge people on board. I'm super excited. It's a time crunch. I wish it was a little bit more like relaxing.
That's why you picked it though.
Yeah. That's the only reason why this is happening.
Yeah.
This is the only reason why it's happening is because I thought it'd be really cool. Yeah, and Paul even said, Paul goes, I'll save a spot in the show for it.
Yeah,
I'm like, holy cow, we're coming. Like,
yeah.
So again, it'd be cool to trailer it. Worst case scenario, we trailer it. If for some reason something happens and that car is not ready for the road and we've exhausted all other, leads on trying to get the thing ready, we'll trailer it. But the plan is you and I are going to drive this thing to Georgia.
Yes.
Into the Smoky Mountains.
Heck yeah.
This thing's traveled from Germany. Custom air suspension, custom wheels.
And then we're going to drive it home and give it to one of you guys.
Yep, give it away. Yep. And I got to figure out all the logistics. But the coolest thing is I'll have shirts and hats available for the giveaway. But what I want to promote the hardest is all the hard goods that anyone's going to buy on that web store, I make myself.
Yep.
Like I hand make all the hard goods. So when you go on the web store and buy a keyring for $20 for 2 inches to win the car, I made that thing and I put it in the envelope or the package and I sent it out.
Yeah.
Like I make this stuff. So I'm hoping that'll play kind of like a cool, like kind of curve to the giveaway where it's like everyone that's playing along, like I'm putting the blood and sweat. I'm not just taking a bunch of the money that comes in for the car giveaway and taking a fraction of it and getting somebody else to make merchandise.
Yeah, you're not just drop shipping t-shirts.
Exactly. There'll be shirts available because people want shirts. But all the hard goods, and I'm going to stress this hard, especially on social media, that like I'm putting the work into this. Mm-hmm. I'm not just putting the work into the car. I'm making all the merchandise too. Anything you can buy, key rings, mirror hangers, custom acrylic pieces, cup coaster sets, whatever. Like I'm going to make everything myself, like leather laser engraved patches that might be sewed onto hoodies or hats or whatever. Like I'm making all of it. Like my hands are on every aspect of this giveaway. So I'm hoping maybe in cars in the future, I'm hoping the Polo does well. I'm hoping I don't burn myself out. Say it does well for the sale aspect. I'm hoping that like I don't burn myself out on all the amount of work I got to put into it.
Yeah.
But I hope it starts this trend where start doing like cool, quirky cars with handmade products that you can buy.
Yeah, man. I think that's going to corner the market.
I hope so.
The market with quotes around
quote
it.
unquote market.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. It'll be fun. I'm excited to kind of see how it goes. I'm trying to stay out of the rabbit hole with this car for fear that it's not going to do well, but I feel like it's a safe place to be. I want the car to be really cool. I think it'll make somebody a really cool car because nobody has ever seen, nobody has seen a Polo driving around like a random town in America. People
Exactly.
Like, what is that? Is that like a Golf? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Why is this so small?
Yeah.
and
Why
have
is it
weird
got like? Why is
headlights
it's almost like a TI Volkswagen?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like not as long as it should be. It's like
Yeah.
shorter than. It's like they finished designing the rear end on a Friday.
Yeah.
Like, no, das is good. So
Especially if it's on the ground too.
yeah, it'll be really cool. And the wheels I'm hoping to build with Rotiform will be period correct looking.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna look amazing. After test fitting your wheels, so I'm gonna leak some photos on Instagram.
Yeah.
So the poll on YouTube and Instagram was, do I go Euro, like traditional Euro, like mainland Europe, like Germany look with small wheels, big lip, a little bit of poke, stretch tires, which looks amazing on Polos, or do I go British look with big wheel, zero lip, face mount, tuck?
Yeah.
And I think that car would look amazing both.
Either way.
But after having the car in a lift and having everything out and getting all the suspension compressed, and I know where I need to cut and what I need to notch and what I need to relocate, looking at the inner fenders in that thing, especially for the time allotted, there needs to be a lot of cutting and like retubbing.
Yeah.
In order to get the car as low as I
safe
want
cutting.
it. Yeah.
Safe cutting.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
But
some
custom
stuff in the way.
work.
Yeah.
In order to get the car as low as I'd want it to tuck big wheels. Otherwise, you're just going to sit on top of that big wheel and it's going to be... That's the one thing I don't like about the common British look with like Mark 1s with like 16s or 17s tucked up under there, is they're really not that low.
Yeah.
And I'm addicted to the low.
Yep. Laid out. That's your thing.
I love the lows, whether or not it's emotional out of relationships or it's I just need the lows.
I had a feeling it was going there.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Gluttons for punishment, both financially, in the car community, and emotionally.
What up?
Typical guys. Yeah, that's next week's episode.
Yeah.
Relationship podcast.
Yeah.
Nah, man, we're free and clear of all that nonsense. We're good. Yeah, so I think the route we're going, and I've kind of spoiled it in the YouTube episode. I think I'm going small wheel, big lip, but I'm kind of splitting the difference.
Yeah, I
not
think so.
quite small.
Yeah, happy
not
medium.
quite huge. Yeah, so I'll keep the rest kind of to be seen once we start getting things together and things come to fruition. But yeah, I think it's gonna come together well. Kind of decided on that, which was good because I wasn't sure which route I was gonna go. But yeah, that's basically it for the Polo. Really excited where I'm at with it right now. Lots happening. Real excited to get my friend Rob Mersaldi from Dent Patrol over. That car's just had like a life of doors like pushed into it. It's just got little things all the way down the car. It's like all those little English car parks or German, little car parks, little grocery stores and stuff. All these doors getting digged into it.
Yeah.
So Rob's going to swing by. Shout out to Dent Patrol. Rob does phenomenal work. He did a bunch of work on the Century before Ocean City and cleaned up a lot of the like side paneling on that car, which is awesome.
His soul.
Yeah, bless his heart. He's really talented. Watching him work his magic on that car was wild. So I'm excited to see him clean up some of the dents on the Polo as well. I'm just excited to have a bunch of friends that are like talented at what they do, like put their hands on this car in one way or another.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's answer some Instagram questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got let me see. We've got a handful that came in. We're already an hour and a half into this podcast too. So we'll see here. Let me pull this up. Where do I go? Oh boy, even more have come in the last hour we've done this.
Nice.
Okay. Now, I've only seen a couple of these. I haven't done a good job. Oh, yeah, we're almost out of water. Hold on. Oh, man. Okay. So, let me open this up here. See all. Okay. So, I haven't read through most of these. I've skimmed over some. I know what's coming in a couple of these. We'll do our best to skim over them.
Yeah.
So we're not here all night.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. Let's see. Scott 97FB asks, are you going to add So Mad camber? No, I'm not. I'm assuming this is directed towards the Polo coupe. No, I am not. I did alter the spindle angle in the Derby, but that's only because the 13x8 ATS Classics I was running were a low offset wheel and they poked out a lot.
Yeah.
And those are the only 4x100 wheels I had. And I didn't have, like, dust off was coming up and I wanted the car there really badly. So I worked with what I had. So I had maybe between -4 and 5 degrees of camber in the rear. And I was able to match the front. I don't feel like that was a ton though.
No, it's not bad.
5 wasn't a lot. But as far as the Polo goes, if I can pull it off with wheel specs, I want that thing like just sitting natural.
Yeah.
The front maybe like -1 or 2 just by natural compression of the suspension. And the rear is just a straight beam. So yeah, I'm not adding mad camber. Jason 950, shout out to Jason. He says, coming from New York, is the trip to Alpine Volks Fair worth it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Depending on what you're driving and how hellish your drive would be. I mean, if you're driving a 65 roof chopped Corvair with bomber seats all the way there, I wouldn't do it. I mean, it's a cool
He
story.
just picked up a late 50s Beetle.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a 57 or 58.
Yeah, I think he said it was
That's
50,
right.
58.
Yeah, you got to get those Porsche twists off there, though. Modern wheels on an old Beetle like that. But that's just me.
Yeah. I think Swoops and I might do some work on that soon and
Cool.
get it ready.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. It's worth it. Because Helen, Georgia, I mean, you haven't been there yet.
No.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
like I just mentioned earlier, it's like you're driving through the Smoky Mountains and all of a sudden you're in Austria.
yeah.
And there's a little place at the end of Edelweiss Drive called North Georgia Barbecue. Man, if Paul Barney's listening to this, oh my goodness. So John DeHate and I ate there every single day last time we were there in 2019.
Yeah.
It was just 11 a.m. We just met up at North Georgia Barbecue.
Boom.
We walked there from the hotel. Small little town. You could walk from one end to the other in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's worth it. Absolutely worth it. Hooded Productions asks, how did you and Corey meet? We've kind of talked about this on previous episodes.
Yeah, a couple.
Music, right?
Yep.
Music. Yeah, we
Sad Cafe.
Plastow, New Hampshire.
Plastow, probably.
Wow. Pour one out for the Sad Cafe.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, that was
mid-2000s. Yeah. The
05.
first time I went there, I was in like 7th grade, but we didn't meet till,
07 maybe.
Probably.
06, 07. I was playing at the Sad Cafe a lot then.
Yeah, probably right around there.
How Near, How Far, or even before then, The Breathing Method.
Yep.
And then once I started, so How Near, How Far was my project, turned into a full band, and then we disbanded, and then I continued on with an acoustic project called How Lost We Are after that. So actually, anyone listening that's interested, all the How Lost We Are stuff from 2008 and 2009, I did 2 albums, I actually recently put on Spotify and iTunes. So you can search Apple Music or Spotify. If you search How Lost We Are, I have 2 full albums of like my music from, holy cow, 13 years ago.
Yeah, man.
Wow. But yeah, so we met through music.
Yep.
Yeah. Playing shows in the New England music scene together.
Yeah.
And then years went by, and I remember when we reconnected, I forgot that we knew each other.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
we were never really close. We were just always at the same shows.
Exactly.
And you being on stage more often than I was, I knew who you were.
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is.
That's so wild. That's a whole nother life too.
Yeah. Yeah. Like
We've crammed a lot into this like
I know.
first quarter of our lives.
Even with Ryan earlier today, we talked about like hardcore shows for like 10 minutes. I'm like, man, that was a totally different life.
Lifestyle. So crazy. Yeah, I mean, when you saying being on stage, I'm like, holy cow, I forget that we used to play shows to like, sometimes it was a couple hundred people. Sometimes it was 15 people in a VFW hall who were in the band who was playing after you.
Yeah. Sitting Indian style in front of you listening to you play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But those shows where you played in front of a couple hundred people in a small room looked like a couple thousand people.
Yeah.
And I forget, like, I don't forget the feeling, but I forget sometimes about being up on stage and, you're singing the songs that you've written and you come out of your zone real quick and you see everyone out there and they're singing along.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy cow. I kid you not, like, having things in common with people like car shows is awesome. I love it. I love talking to people who have said like, seeing your Corvair like motivated me to buy one or something. That's crazy. Like, that's crazy. to have just something that I'm passionate about or that anyone's passionate about, move someone else in some sort of way to kind of either just motivate them or to follow along in some sort of way. But it's, it felt like that with BMX too, where like you'd be at some contest or some skate park and some kid comes running up and he's just like, "You're my favorite rider." And it's like, what?
Yeah.
I'm from some small town in New Hampshire. Like, no, like I've seen all your like Madeira parts. I got the Madeira DVD and your Ender clip, like your banger clip in the Shook DVD was like, Smith 180 bar spin what? And I'm like, how do you know this stuff? And they're just a kid like I was buying BMX DVDs and I was just one of the riders in it. So all that stuff is crazy. But what I'm getting at is having people connect to music that you've written on an emotional and spiritual level is something that is like nothing else.
It's insane.
It's like I've got chills thinking about it. Like looking out over like I say a sea, not really a sea of people, but a handful of people that are like in the zone with you. You've met them. Like you've met them on this like emotional ride, and they know your song first of all, but they're there singing it with everything they got. And it's like, I wrote those words and you're screaming them.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. And as I say it, and I think about this often, but as I say it, that's all I want. Like that's that feeling. I want that connectivity with other humans. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Like, and I say this a lot, but like music's my only real passion. Like I love cars. I love BMX. BMX was a fluke.
Yeah.
Like going pro BMX was not something I was striving for. It just happened. And it was a dream come true for sure. But it was something that I gave 10 years of my life to. But holy cow, music, there's no more fulfilling avenue of anything I've ever done that fills me like music does.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I only had a small taste of what you're talking about right now, and man, I miss it every day.
Yeah,
same.
Yeah. And it's weird that we're in like this weird nebulous of time right now where like shows are put on hold. I mean, things are coming back.
Yeah.
But like, that's I swear if all of a sudden I fall off the radar on like the automotive social media and like that's where I went. I had a change of heart and I'm like or a moment of clarity, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I've dove back into music like hard because that's all. I mean, I'm looking at my drum kit and like my keyboard and look at the dust that's covering everything. Everything's covered in dust. Oh, it's a bummer. The dry erase board that has like, it used to have track listing, like Rising Sea album cover, options. Oh yeah, options cover. I was working on a Pedro the Lion cover for a little bit. Podcast intro synthwave part. Actually, I should check that off.
Yeah, you've done that.
And Spotify and Apple Music. I got the How Lost We Are stuff up on that.
Yeah.
But I did not get the Rising Sea stuff up. So while we're talking about music, I'll plug that. The Rising Sea on Instagram. The Rising Sea. On that Instagram page, there is a link to my SoundCloud of unfinished demos that I just was either going to bin.
All worth a listen, though.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's even a few clips on there that are recorded with an iPhone 4. Seriously, in like 2010, 2011, iPhone 4. Pretty crazy. I want to get back into it so bad, but that requires the most time.
Yeah,
that requires more time than like anything. Like this car project, this podcast, like it's 10:20 as we speak right now. I'm gonna edit and upload this actually no, I can't because I have to go downstairs and finish 2 jobs.
That's right.
To get shipped out tomorrow morning. Like this stuff takes time.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned earlier, because I said something, I roasted myself in some sort of way, and you're like, dude, you're doing it. You got a lot going on. I'm like, yeah, it'd be nice to get paid for some of it, because I'm 36 years old, and I feel like I'm working 4 full-time jobs, and I'm getting paid for the part-time job at Starbucks. Although no, because that gets free healthcare.
Oh shit.
Dude, part-time work at Starbucks gets health benefits. I don't even have those. So I'm working for I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know.
I don't know either.
Anyway, so next question. We met through music to answer that question.
Yeah.
Owen Miller, O.14.Miller, a good local friend of ours. If you were to build a car for performance and track, if you were going to build a car for performance, track work over aesthetics, what would it be? Boy, I don't know. There's like a few things I think I would do.
I'd build the track spec Cayman.
Yeah, I saw that one coming. Yeah, we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah, that's my, that's on the list for me in the future.
So So I've got two off the top of my head. If I sat here and thought about it, there'd be a few. So I'll list three. Okay, I'll list three.
Yeah. I have one more.
There's a wild card. Well, let's hear your other one.
Well, I'd build a track spec 190.
Yeah.
Yep,
So I was gonna mention, for the DTM sake, I was gonna mention an Evo 2 tribute car.
Oh yeah.
So I'd buy a real Cosworth 16 valve, even though those are escalating in value. And I would go to Support and Snack in Bangkok at Hedgehog Motorsports.
That's right.
Who I've already talked to when I had my 190 8 years ago. I would get his Evo 2 kit, which unfortunately you have to get the bumpers too. The Evo 1 shared the 16 valve bumpers of the Cosworth. So if you buy a Cosworth, 16 valve Cosworth, right? You've now got the same interior gauge cluster and front and rear bumpers as the Evo 1, as the Evolution 1.
Yep.
So if you buy an Evo 1 kit to build your tribute car with, you really only need side skirts, the big wheel arches, fender flares.
Yep.
He even makes a one-piece fender. So you can get a fiberglass fender that has the wheel arch and fender flare molded into it.
Yeah.
But the real true DTM guys know that they're two-piece, and so you got to cut your arch if you do that.
Right.
Front diffuser and lip, mid-wing in the back, and deck lid wing. So you've got all that stuff, but you don't have to change your bumpers. Evo 2, you have to change your bumpers. So everything from the shipping for those bumpers from Thailand is like bonkers money.
Yeah.
So, so that's number 4 for me though. That's not like top 3.
Yeah.
Top 3, in not this order, because I'm just going to spew this out. Number 1 has 2 cars involved. Let's start with a cooler number 1. Number 1 would be a Silhouette R30 Skyline.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Shout out to everybody who's played Gran Turismo 2 simulation and demo mode.
Gotcha.
Holy cow. The red R30 Silhouette Skyline. The huge wide box fenders and square wing. Dude, that is... So this is unrealistic, by the way. This is not answering Owen's question. Because really, Owen tracks his E46 and he wants us to go to Club Motorsport and race with him.
I know it.
I'm not taking a Silhouette R30 up there. I would have to sell...
could.
It. Yeah, I could, couldn't I?
Yeah, I mean...
I sell everything. And buy an R30 coupe.
I sell everything.
Sell everything. Yeah, the Century, the Corvair. So I could.
I mean,
I could build a Silhouette R30. I'd have to be like, this is the goal, and I'm gonna do everything it takes. Like none of this music, none of this sissy music stuff we're talking about. Like none of that. All that's out the window. My passion, my happiness, girls and shit. But I bet carving the turns at Club Motorsport in a Silhouette R30. Holy cow! They may have been R31s.
Yeah, the R31 is the wedge.
Yeah, but the R30 was a wedge too. The taillights were real square with the round lights inside the square. I think R30 and R31. I may be, so let's just say it's the 2 of those. But number 2 would be, this is a combination answer. Number 2 would be a Mark II and Mark 3 through 5. I know we're getting kind of crazy here. Mark 2, 3, and 5 Cosworth Escort.
Okay. Yeah.
Like super low, wide 13s, just that Euro Ford, the little square headlights with the Ford emblem in the middle that just goes, I'm the baddest thing on the track.
Yep.
I may be the slowest, but I'm the craziest looking car out here.
Yeah.
Those cars look so good. Shout out to Greg Keyser. I don't think you know Greg.
No.
Buddy of mine from Maryland, good friends with Robert Overholser. We just talked yesterday about this. Greg, so I've showed you Greg's cars. Greg's got, I'm forgetting the platform name. Because I've had one. He's got a Volvo 142 coupe, like the post Amazon but pre 240DL on air on Gaudi's, really cool. But he's got a built 911, like a red SC Whaletail 911.
Yeah.
So that might not be an SC, but it's a 930. Rowdy thing, rowdy thing. He's got the shoot. What's the name of that stupid car company? I'm totally forgetting.
Stupid car company.
Lancia. I'm like, who makes the Delta?
Come on.
Who makes the damn Delta?
Stupid.
Pardon my French.
My friggin' dream car.
Pardon my Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got a Lancia. I've showed you the car. It looks like the Alpha GTV. It's the oh shoot. Everyone listening's like, get on with it.
Yeah, and
it's the Lancia. It looks like the Alpha GTV. It's like the 2-door, long nose, real slope back. It's on the tip of my tongue. Like it sounds like uvula, but it's not. It's like the Lancia starts with a U, I think.
Why am I blanking?
I can't remember. But he's also got a Mark I Lotus Cortina.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've showed you.
Okay.
You know the red, the red
yeah.
Lancia that he's got that always parked next to the Lotus Cortina.
Yeah.
So he lives in Maryland, but he's got like the coolest little cup cars, like the coolest things. Well, I don't know what he sold to acquire this. I think he might have just bought it outright. He just bought a Mark V Cosworth Escort, like a whale tail Cosworth, in yellow, which they only built like 70 of.
Wow,
insane. So anyway, so my second option would be a Mark II, Mark III, because I love the Mark III RS 1600s.
Mm-hmm.
Those are so cool.
Yep.
Through the whale tail with like the mid wing with the support that comes up and meets the
three spoke wing.
And Robert's a Porsche guy. You know, he owns a Porsche motorsport shop. He goes, I don't get it. I'm like, I know. And he goes, but they're so slow. And I'm like, so are the E30 M3s.
Yeah, exactly.
And the Cosworth, they're underpowered, underwhelming cars.
They're momentum cars.
They're undelivering. Like, you know what I mean? You drive it and you're like, is this it? Like, if we're not going anywhere. So yeah, but that's the whole driving slow cars fast exhilaration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Momentum cars.
So all right, so we've got the R30 or 31 Silhouette Skyline, like wild track car.
Yes,
that's a fantasy. We've got a not so fantasy, like could be obtainable if I sold a few cars. Like those Cosworths are $30,000 to $50,000 cars. So I mean that's obtainable, if you work hard enough.
Yep.
And number 3 was going to be an RX-3 Mazda.
Okay.
Those cars look so menacing out on the track. Yeah. They really do. They're really cool looking cars. I don't know if I'd actually go after one. I might do a 510 Datsun again.
Yeah.
I've had one, but I never really finished it. I think a 510 would be cool. I like the JDM stuff.
Yeah.
And then number 4 was but here's the thing. We got to cover this too. We could talk about this forever.
I know, man.
Because I love early GT, like American Le Mans cars.
Yes.
Like the C2 Grand Sport, like the 63 Grand Sport Corvette.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Like in Mongoose and Superformance and a few other companies make replica Grand Sport Corvettes. You can buy, you can go buy a Shelby America, which is made by Superformance in like South Africa. You can buy like those like continuation CSX numbered Cobras, right?
Oh yeah.
But it's a new one. They build a Grand Sport C2 Corvette with external oil cooler diff coolers up on the with the hoses that come up and the diff coolers sitting up on the window split. Like it's wild stuff. I mean, Nick Acton had one in a shop a couple years ago, and I got some photos of it like rolling. We went to a cruise night with it, and I was like, this
sold.
thing, dude.
Yeah.
Blue with the white nose that turns into the white racing stripe with like, instead of the pop-up lights, they're the exposed lights behind the plexiglass windows in the front, like down real low, like wide body, big V8, side pipes, like the early Trans Am GT American cars, like the early Trans Ams, like kind of like Riley Stairs car.
Yeah.
That stuff is nuts.
Yeah.
Real
sick.
So Owen, all.
Yeah.
Let's go.
You mentioned Cortina. I want a Lotus Cortina so bad.
So I showed you like before I found the Century, when I knew, so like I'll be transparent here. I sold the E23 for $22,000. I mean, that was like insane money. I think it's worth it now. It's worth it.
Of course.
And one would argue it was worth it then too. I mean, this was all the rare of the rare parts, all the BBS, all the AC Schnitzer, all the options original.
Yep.
Fully optioned in a manual from the factory, right-hand drive, rust-free, and Cypress green. Performance BMW and Fast Car Magazine both featured it. Like, it was a wild... of all the 7 Series, it was the pre-facelift E23 with the shark nose. It was like the one you want. Fully optioned, headlight wiper washer systems, full leather, sunroof and AC, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so when I sold that car, when Alan put the down payment on the car and we were prepping the trip to drive to LA, I was looking in England for, now the Lotuses were a little out of my range. Those were closer to 30 grand enough.
Yeah.
But I was looking at the Ford Cortinas, the Mark Ones, which look the same.
Same thing.
They're not the Lotuses, and I know, like, when you've got the Ford, all the guys are like, I should have got the Lotus.
Yeah.
Like, I know. But I was looking at Ford Mark One Cortinas, even the 4-doors. I'd take a saloon.
Absolutely.
Those things are so cool. So yeah, that's on the list too. That was actually closer on the list than other cars, because I was like real close to like pulling the trigger on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe one of these days I'll put together something for the track. I mean, I know myself too well, and I know I've got I've got motorsport in my veins. You know, I love driving and go fast and like motorsport and stuff. But
Yeah.
I've got too much car ADD. I don't have like the attention span or the innards to like stay on one car all the time.
And for a track car, it's repetitive maintenance.
Yeah.
And upkeep and safety and so I get that factor.
Yeah. Fred White, Fred_1320 video. What event are we meeting at this year? Podcast and hangs. So he was going to try to make it to Alpine Volksfair.
Yeah, he said he wasn't able to.
They got an event, and 1320 has an event. And when he said that they had an event, he was just like, yeah, they can totally cover it. Like, I don't need to be there. He's like, I'll probably make it.
Yeah.
I'll probably trailer the Harlequin, but I'll come out.
Yeah.
And then it was literally like a day later. He's like, well, my boss decided for me. And I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, Fred, I don't know, man. Like, I got to think about like what's going on this summer. I haven't even thought that far.
I gave him the heads up about Wolfsgart, and he was like, "Oh, I'll think about it." So
yeah, I know that's a ways. It's worth it.
Yeah, and he wants to get the Mercedes together, obviously.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Wolfsgart's worth it because Burlington's a destination.
Yeah.
So it's worth going there. It's not like it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and now they've kind of made it into an entire weekend thing.
4-day thing.
Four-day thing.
And I mean, Fred obviously knows he can come out and stay with me.
Of course, yeah.
So, yeah, maybe Wolfsgart. That's at the end of July. I don't have a show list in front of me. Shout out to Nick Gressley if he's listening to this, but Nick's been trying to get me to come down to Sumo Speed a lot. We just talked about this at Bad Matters.
That's the one in Virginia Beach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And oddly enough, did I tell you about this? Dude, we got back from Bag Riders talking about Sumo Speed and going to Nick's show. That night, Nick messaged me and goes, hey, man, I need Sumo Speed key rings.
Oh, dang.
And I was like, yo, your ears are ringing, my friend. The universe acts in weird ways sometimes.
It really does,
like,
man.
Something breaks in the universe and like everything lines up in weird ways. So crazy. So I'd like to get down to Sumo Speed. I think that's June. Okay. But if we can fly to England, I want to go to Players Classic
I know,
again.
Man.
And here's the thing. I had COVID. I haven't got the needle in my arm. I had COVID. I haven't gotten an antibody test. But I really want to be able to get on a plane without getting a vaccine if I'm like good to go. You know what I mean? Like if I have the antibodies and I've like vaccinated the hard way, you know what I mean? If I'm sorted out, I really would like to get on a plane without needing a card saying I'm microchipped.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
But seriously, if I've vaccinated the hard way, it's like then I don't need to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
So
I'm definitely not going to falsify the card to get on a plane.
Like you said you were going to there. I'm going to buy a laminator and start making these. Yeah. You started by saying, I haven't told anyone this. So you brought this up. I haven't told anyone this, but I'm going to start forging vaccine cards, make a lot of money to all these anti-vaxxers out there.
Yeah.
Oh, hilarious.
Anti-microchippers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wait till Neuralink's out. Neuralink's out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so the thought of Neuralink right now is like, you know, it's like Skynet. You know, you're like, it's like
Terminator.
Black Mirror. Like it's Black Mirror, it's Skynet, it's Cyberdyne, it's the machines are taking over.
Yeah. What was the Wi-Fi internet? I mean, Starlink.
That's all Elon stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Starlink, Neuralink, SpaceX, Boring Company,
Black Mirror.
Tesla.
It's all.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, Neuralink. Everyone's like, oh, microchip in your brain or whatever, and it's like, but then once they realize that you'll have like the best bandwidth for uploading your stupid TikTok video, they're like, sign me up.
Yeah.
Put it in my head.
And the iPhone's already
we're a cyborg. We're walking cyborgs with this on the end of my hand.
And here's what we're saying right now.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, hopefully we can go to England.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But I really want to make it to Sumo Speed too, because even Zach was piping me up. Zach's like, it's worth it. It's worth going.
Yeah.
We'll figure something out, Fred. Michael John says something along the same lines as Owen. Ever see yourself build a car for big horsepower numbers? So rather than horsepower numbers, I'd rather build something that has an amazing power to weight ratio.
Yes.
I want to go fast, quick.
Yes.
I don't care about cruising at 100 or that I've got 900 horsepower. I mean, that'd be wild.
Yeah.
But I want to drive a car that when I punch it, like, so I told you this. I drove Ross's P85D Tesla.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first Tesla I've ever been in.
Close your ears.
Holy cow. Holy cow.
It's insane. I know.
Dude.
But it's stupid.
So this is a bunny trail. We don't need to go all the way down this bunny trail. But Like, so I'm a petrol head through and through.
Of course.
Obviously,
always
Swoops,
will be.
Obviously, Swoops has like a tighter outlook on this than I do. I don't have like a political or like, I don't know, like whatever. I don't have like a deep outlook.
But
on this.
not political, but like
But I'd rather smell burning gasoline and like avgas and like just like high octane fuel and just hear an internal combustion engine. I love that. Like regardless of the actual carbon footprint that electric cars leave, and people are like, oh, they're clean. Like, well, they're not. No, they're not. Like the creation, transport, and disposal of batteries. No, it's all creating a carbon footprint. Yeah, it all is. Like humans being here is creating a carbon footprint. No matter what you do, you eat organic. Yeah, well, harvesting all those organics are killing millions and millions of livestock, little rodents and animals as the combines are. You know what I mean? Like it's all a vicious cycle.
I know
all of it. So that being said, the Tesla, holy cow, like, dude. So as like a quick summarizing story, I go to Ross's. It's the day that we're trying to sort out what we're gonna do with the Polo, right? And it's a black or charcoal, a dark charcoal P85 Model S. I like the Model S's. I think they look cool. Yeah. 4-door saloon. Sure. They're kind of like, yeah, they're kind of cool. Electric cars could look way worse, right? So the 4-door Tesla looks pretty cool, in my opinion. So it's in the yard. I just assume it's just something he bought at auction for cheap and he's selling it, you know, because most of the stuff he sells is like 2017 to 2020 at this point. So I go in, we're talking about the Polo, and he's talking about cars, like his lot. You know, we're just talking about how things are going. And he's like, you might have seen the Tesla out there. I'm like, yeah. And he stops. Now Ross is a Volkswagen brand loyal guy. He sells Honda Elements and Honda Accords and, you know, stuff that people are buying. But he's a Volkswagen enthusiast through and through, right? And he's like, so he loves cars. He loves Volkswagens. He's got like 60 some odd super rare Volkswagens, right?
Volkswagen.
Yes, he's the RossVW.com. You can go look at his collection right now. Like, it's freaking wild. Like when I start bringing him up in conversation to some of my like old head Volkswagen friends, then all of a sudden they're like, oh, Ross VW? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I remember seeing his website years ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, Ross goes, John, I've never loved a car. I've never loved a car. And I knew where he was going with this. I'm like, you sure about that? He goes, yep. I've never loved a car, but I love that one. And he points to the Tesla.
Insane.
And I'm like, really? And he goes, yep. And I said, listen, I've heard a lot of my friends say this. You're not the first person to say this, but I am a little surprised to hear you say this. And he goes, yep. He goes, it's like nothing else. And I said, listen, I've heard everybody say this. And he goes, you want to go for a ride? And I'm like, no. Yeah, sure. Well, I'm just like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Like, okay, take me for a ride. So we get in it. I like the simplicity of the interior. I mean, I'm not like, I like old gauges and like, I'm an old soul when it comes to cars. But I like the ergonomics. Like I just, it's cool. It's cool. The door handles, you know, everything's kind of cool.
Space.
I get it. And I like the fact that Elon is like a science fiction nerd. Yeah. And he adds a lot of that science fiction flair into his cars. Like it's really, I mean, for goodness sake, do you see the spacesuits of the dudes that launched from NASA? I mean, it looks like an episode of Star Trek.
Yep.
I mean, he's naming his rockets after Star Wars and Star Trek,
right?
Like Falcon, like that's after the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah,
like,
and in electric cars, you need to have a noise that's made when the car is backing up for safety reasons. And he took the sound from the Jetsons. Yeah, so it goes. Yeah, it backs amazing, up, right? And backs up. It's so like, all right, you're a nerd.
I love everything about that, right? So I'm not an electric car, like I don't know, advocate. I guess like
I'm not either.
It is what it is. I mean, that's the way technology's going. I get it. Whatever is what it is. Never been interested in owning a Tesla. Never. I mean, quick bunny trail. I subscribe 100%, and I should have put the $100 deposit down for the pre-order. I subscribe to the Cybertruck, my friend. I am all aboard the hype train.
That's you, man.
The second that thing came out, I was like, yes, pre-order.
Oh my God.
Dude, I'm into it. Because I love Total Recall. I love like all these 80s wedge crappy Hollywood films with Arnold Schwarzenegger in them. Like, and the Cybertruck looks like it's right out of Total Recall. I love it. Anyway, we get in Ross's Tesla, and right where his dealership is a road that's straight as an arrow. And so we get out on the road, no one's coming, and he stops, right? And he keeps it in insane mode. And I know they're fast. I know they're electric cars. I've never been in one, but I know they're fast. And I hear everybody say, oh, fastest thing I've ever driven. I'm like, I get it. Okay, I get it. So I got my seatbelt on. I'm just sitting there chilling, and we pull out on the road and we stop, and he goes, you ready? I'm like, yeah. It just takes off. Dude.
No noise, though.
No noise. Silent.
Just the noise of your brain going to the back of your head.
He punches it, right? The roads are a little wet, too, but it grips, and it goes, and I'm pinned in the back of the seat, and I thought I was going to pass out.
Yeah.
Dude, I thought, like, you ever like, ride that roller coaster or that slingshot, and the G-forces are bringing the darkness in. The darkness is closing,
you're blacking out.
And you're feeling it coming, and you're squinting, and you're like, and you're trying to hang on, and you can feel it closing in, and the darkness is fighting you. And you're like, no, and you're feeling it coming. Dude, that whole time, I'm thinking, it's obviously happening in a matter of just a few seconds. But as that darkness is creeping in, and I'm pinned in my seat, I'm expecting a let up for like a gear change, right? Or at least just like but nothing.
The end of the earth.
It's going, and it's getting progressively worse and worse and worse. And I think the fact that I wasn't ready for what was about to happen is why I was reacting the way I was.
Yeah.
The darkness is closing in. I'm fighting it, and I can feel it coming. But the fact that I'm ashamed that it's coming, I'm like, I don't understand. Like, the uncertainty of what's happening is like compounding the blacking out. I'm like, I'm a mess for like 3 seconds, and the thing stops, and like he like gets on the second you let off the throttle, it's like engine brake.
Yeah.
It's wild, and I'm like, and I'm laughing, hysterically laughing. Yeah. Like I'm like, my gut hurts. I'm laughing so hard, and Ross is laughing with me because he knows why I'm laughing.
Yeah,
it's insanity. This whole thing that we just experienced for 5 seconds is just full blown insanity.
Yeah,
and so we turn around. And we do the same thing going back up the hill. And I'm laughing. I'm like, the darkness is closing in. I'm laughing. I'm like welcoming the end. I'm like, let's go. Just bring
Hello,
on.
darkness, my old friend.
Hello, darkness, my new friend.
Yes. Oh, man. Oh, I've missed you.
Yeah, exactly. That's the clip for this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, we go back to the deal. We turn around and we go back, and I'm laughing. We're both laughing.
Yeah.
I go, it's not fair. I'm like, this isn't fair. Ross goes, of course this isn't fair.
It's stupid.
I'm like, you can go to a dealership and buy this insanity, and they're just like, off with you, like off into civilization with this power.
Yep.
So we get back to the dealership, and we get out of the car, and I'm still laughing. Like, my gut hurts. I'm laughing so hard. And I'm like,
because that's all you can do.
I'm like, because I don't know how to, this is my coping mechanism. I'm coping with this experience by laughing. Like, it's a nervous, like end of times laugh. I'm like, I don't know how to handle like what's happening to my body right now. So we're laughing. I'm like, dude, I'm acting as if no one's ever told me this. Like, and I've heard it from everybody. Everyone's like, no, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's like as if they've never said anything. I'm like, that's the craziest thing I've been in some fast cars. I mean, my dad's had some big horsepower muscle cars when I was a kid.
Yeah,
when I was a little kid who was thrown around by inertia far more than I am now as an adult. You know what I mean? Like, I've been in some quick stuff. That was absolutely insane. So Ross goes, do you want to drive it? I said, no, I don't want to drive it.
Yeah.
So I did. He goes, let's go. And I'm like, oh, all right. And so we get out onto the road. No cars are coming. And I come to a stop, standstill, right? And Ross goes, are you ready? And I'm like, nope. Yeah. And I punched it. And and same deal, just a laugh. I mean, and so it's so funny. We're laughing to death. We go down to where we turned around. I'm turning around. And Ross goes, John, this is me every day.
Yeah.
He goes, I do this every day.
Yeah.
He goes, every red light, I punch it. I laugh like a child. Every red light, I punch it. I laugh like a child. And I'm at work.
Keeps him young.
And I'm grinning ear to ear.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is absolutely insane.
It is crazy. Yeah.
That it has a 0 to 60 time so fast that at a red light, you've reached 60 miles an hour before you've traversed the intersection.
Yeah. Like
crazy.
I was saying, the numbers on the dash for your speed don't go up by ones. They go up. 20s. They go 30, 60, 90.
Unreal.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Now, it hasn't made me want to go buy a Tesla.
No.
I don't like, I'm just not, that's not my style. I'm not that into it. But holy cow.
It's an experience. I'm glad you got to experience it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It wasn't a P100D. You know, like, he doesn't have the latest update. Like, and it wasn't charged up enough for Insane Plus.
Oh, yeah.
It needed like 3 more hours of charging or something to do Insane Plus. And the road was a little bit wet. But like when I drove it, the first time I punched it, it hooked up. On the way back uphill a little bit, I mean, it's just full throttle, like no easy. I just was off and on.
Yeah.
And it was grabbing, like trying to figure, but it's not making any noise. I'm like, this is insane. Like you're inside a building before you know it because it's not making any noise.
Seriously?
It's just.
Yeah.
And you're like in somebody's second floor apartment. Yeah. Like, how did this happen? It just took off. It started flying. I killed 4.5 people, a dog, and now I'm upstairs. And this guy watching Netflix with this guy.
Still no noise.
Insane. Yep. Holy cow. It was wild.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to bunny trail that hard.
I know.
But that was, I wanted to tell that story on the podcast because I forgot all about it.
Yeah.
Holy cow. My sister, Christina M. Kremer. It's Kramer, but I mean Kremer. Kremer. She's new last name.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about becoming an uncle? So my sister's pregnant.
Oh, that's right.
I told you that. Yeah.
Congrats.
Which is crazy because like I live a crazy busy life. She lives a crazy busy life. I mean, she's married, but her and her husband have spent no longer than 3 months together under the same roof since they've been married for 3 years.
Yeah.
Because she travels on the road for coaching college volleyball. He travels on the road coaching college baseball. So it's like, and those seasons are different and they're just like traveling and recruiting. And so she'd work at a college in like North Carolina, but they just bought a house in Kansas City. So it's like, they're all over the place. So I was talking to her on the phone and she just like slid it into conversation. She said something about like, yeah, and since you're going to be an uncle and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, or she might've just been like, yeah, because I'm pregnant. And I just went, what? Like it was just like disbelief.
That's great.
Because I just wouldn't expect it. So, and so I didn't tell my parents. She waited to have a few other like checkups to make sure everything was like, she got through that whatever threshold where it's like, all right, you are pregnant. This is a go type deal. Mm-hmm. And so we like surprised my parents. She bought them like these mugs, like because they adopted her dog because her travel schedule like just wouldn't allow her. She like surrendered her dog to my parents. Who are equally as loving.
Of course,
she's spoiled rotten. But the mugs that she bought them said something like, "You've been graduated from like dog grandma to human grandma." Or something. And my dad figured. So what we FaceTimed them. Yeah, we FaceTimed them, and then like they opened the gifts and they read it and. My dad caught it right away. My mom's like, dog graduated, dog grandma, human grandma. Like, and my dad's like we're waiting. And my sister and her husband are like on the other end of the phone. They're like waiting. We're like, she's pregnant. Yeah. Like, so finally they figured it out. Well, my mom finally figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how am I feeling? I don't know how to feel because I've never been an uncle before. So I don't know.
True.
I don't know. And like she lives in Kansas City, so I don't see her that often. So she'll probably come out for Christmas or something. And I'll hold this baby and I'll be like like the butterfly meme. Like, is this baby? Like,
is this baby?
Yeah. Is this human? I am uncle.
Is this nephew?
Yeah, exactly. Is nephew?
Oh my God.
This is what happens when we do a podcast at 11 o'clock at night.
I know. I was just going to say it's entirely too late to continue this.
We're 2 hours and 15 minutes in and we've only scratched the surface of these questions.
Oh man.
Yeah, we can save some for the next one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to skip around. Mason Gavin. This is actually the next one in line.
Yeah.
Mason Gavin. He says, bring him. So I think he means you. Bring him to Helen next month and let's all share a twin size bed for warmth with like the blushing emoji with the hearts around it. Like, we cannot say that around you know who, by the way.
Yeah.
And Aiden, who's listening to this, knows exactly who we're talking about.
Gulp.
So yeah, Mason, that sounds good to us.
Yeah.
But Mason's a new dad too, by the way. Speaking of people being pregnant.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Mason and Carly for the newborn.
Human.
Yeah. Is human. Is parents. Is parent now.
Dad?
But yeah, that's happening in a month. We still need to figure out lodging, Mason. So I'm going to get in touch with you about what we're doing. Because I want to get down there. I was talking to Robert, because Robert wants to bring some Wolf Technic boys down. They want to trailer a couple cars down.
Yeah, heck yeah.
A couple air-cooled Porsches.
Yes,
some
sir.
like real deal German cars. Some German steel. You've never been to Helen before. The last two times I've been there, it's been like pretty cruddy weather. But that was like end of April, early May.
Yeah.
This is the end of May. More than likely, it's going to be nice. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. I want to go down for like almost a week.
Yeah.
I really do. I want to be down there by Wednesday so we can you got to absorb that town, man.
Oh, of course.
Because I feel like every time I go down there, it's for a quick weekend and I don't get outside the town much. The first couple times I went, we ventured out, we went around, we drove around the area. It was phenomenal. And the last few times I've been, it's like I stayed right in Helen and then drove out and left. It's still an amazing experience, but I'd love to leave like Monday or Tuesday and head home Monday or Tuesday. Or Monday and Tuesday. You know what I mean? So, so anyway, Mason, we'll get in touch with you about potential lodging and stuff. I do like staying at a hotel right in downtown because you can walk everywhere. But as we were talking with Aiden yesterday, I have also done the cabin in the woods, 20-minute drive out of town, which is the Smoky Mountain experience.
That's
for sure.
the experience.
Yeah. But all those cabins are on hills and they're dirt driveways that are like that steep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And everybody that's got a low car is like, I got my, shout out to Brian Buckley. I don't think he listens to this. We were Alpine Vag Fair. I've got the 700 there. I'm at one of the Mexican restaurants in Howland with the ILB boys, Adam, James, a couple of the other guys. The ex-girlfriend was with me, a couple other people. And Brian Buckley texts me and goes, hey, do you have a truck? And I'm like, yeah, why? And he goes, we can't get up our driveway. And I'm like, why do you need my truck? He goes, we need to trailer our cars up the driveway. And I'm like, yeah, that's not. Yeah. I'm like, my trailer is like in across the river where all the trucks and trailers are parked. I'm like, yeah, no, I can't, I'm not your guy for that. Because they wanted the trailer cars up and down the driveway or something when they're coming. I can't remember what the deal was. But that's the reality of those cabins out there. I know it. I think Sadie Fortin was staying with them. All their cars were like just too low to get up the driveway. And I'm like, yeah, those cabins out in those hills are just, you need a 4-wheel drive rig or like a, even where James Grigg and his dad stayed where the Beetle was. The ILB boys filmed Kyle Golding's Beetle and James Grigg's Beetle the day we were leaving. I think we left Sunday morning, and their cabin was like on our way out of Helen, and we stopped. It was a paved driveway, but it was like mega steep. I can't believe James's Beetle, because James's Beetle was like on the deck at that time. Got up that driveway. So that's the one downside to staying in some of those cabins. I got to address this one because you and I talked about this. The Swoops' question. Yeah. Swoops, talking about the Polo. Is Corey going to build a hardline setup for it? How about I build a hardline setup for it, Swoops? How about I build a hardline setup? Huh? I can bend up some tube and bend some pipe up and who hardlines my Swoops. I love you, Greg. I really do. And you do phenomenal work. Amazing. You know I do. So I wasn't even going to address that because I was like, how do I answer that question without making it sound like I don't want you to work on the car? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I naturally went, maybe I make a hardline setup. And you go, you got to say that on the podcast. Yeah. So
no, it was perfect.
So, well, maybe he will.
Yeah.
Maybe he will if he's hanging out.
I was thinking about it today.
Yeah. Maybe if like we're tinkering on things and I'm working on the front end and he works on the trunk setup. But maybe I do it.
I had a good teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't gone to the school of Swoops, but I can bend me some pipey.
Is this Swoops?
Yes.
Is this pipe?
Is this pipe bend? Oh man.
Yeah, it's getting late, man.
Yeah, it's getting late. All right, so Dylan Keener, TDs, says, who can run fastest? I told you I wasn't going to tell you that until we were recording. What do you think?
I don't know. That should be a YouTube episode, I suppose.
I'd probably break things.
Yeah.
Because I beat my body up pretty bad. I'm pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm sure
you are too, though. So I don't know how to answer that question.
I haven't foot raced anyone else in a long time.
Here's the thing. I don't like, it'd have to be a quick sprint and it's over.
Yeah.
Because like my heels, you already know this. My heels, ankles, knees, and my right hip took a serious beating riding BMX for so long. Of course. So I can't run anymore. Like if I need to build cardio, I need an elliptical or a road bike. Yeah. Like I can't and I'm a heavy-footed runner, so I can't run. Like if I run a mile, and I'm talking a walk to a slight jog into a slow cadence run, like nothing too crazy. Like just in that 1 mile, like my right hip, my knees, and my heels are killing me.
Yeah.
So anyway, as far as who's fastest, as long as I don't blow my ACL out on takeoff, I think it'd be close.
I think it'd be real close.
It'd be close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be close. I've been working on my diet and like weight and like health the last couple of years, so I'm like, if this was 2 years ago, I'd just be like,
and us both being on the bike, our cardio is probably decent.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. If this was 2 years ago, I'd be a pile of like French fries on the floor. you just win. I'll just give you the title. Eat my French fries.
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be a fun YouTube episode.
That would be.
I don't know if anyone would really care to watch it. But,
I'm sure.
I'll only do a few more. Danny Has Mojo says, have you and Corey done or thought of a joint project together? Yeah, we have. We talk about that all the time.
We've always talked about it.
So 2 years ago when I first started the YouTube channel, it's been 2 years now. Yep. Yeah, it was H2O 2018.
Yeah.
Was the first video.
Yep.
It might have been, I think it was before, when did we really start talking about it? It might have been 2019 before we flew to Players Classic.
Yeah.
I think it was, you were here, we were packing for the trip. And I remember we were talking about that, about starting a shop.
Right.
I bought like a Governor's Club shop. It was before I did the whole Ludwig's Garage thing. But we've talked about that a bunch.
So often.
I mean, and like, obviously our paths are like in the same lane, but different right now. Cause you were working at Ace, then you were you're doing the air-cooled stuff for a while. And now you're with Dave and Pete, who've just started Victory.
Yeah.
Which is an awesome setup.
The way I've worded it is I've always built everyone else's projects.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So I've always slacked on my own projects, or, if it came down to you and I doing a project.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we want to.
We've talked about it a bunch. We've talked about the cars in specificity.
I was gonna say, we've even brainstormed.
Another good word.
Oh, here
we were hitting vocabulary today. I used the word efficacy like 3 times a day.
Nailed it. We're doing good.
Yeah.
Or you're doing good.
Aiden, when we were out to dinner in Chattanooga,
the
vocabulary on this man.
Yeah.
Hilarious. We've talked about it. And
we've even brainstormed on certain cars, on certain
that's what I mean.
For sale
specifically,
ads.
we've like looked at certain cars to do.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon. I mean, we've like tinkered on each other's cars. I helped you a little bit on the Avant, and then you've helped out on some of the more recent projects too.
Yeah.
Here's another good one. Xavier.png. Back with more food questions. Orange juice or apple juice?
I'm allergic.
Orange juice. Oh, I thought you were going to say orange juice at the same time.
I was going to say orange
juice.
Yeah. I'm allergic to apple juice.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it the arsenic that's in it? Because there's like arsenic.
I don't know. It's the preservatives that are in apple juice.
So you can eat apples though?
I can eat apples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. All right. So I think Aiden and I were talking about this on his episode on the podcast. Pulp or no pulp?
Pulp.
Yeah. I grew into pulp.
Yeah, okay.
I mentioned this on the podcast because I remember I said when I was a kid I was a Sunny D guy. And he goes, Sunny D. I'm like, I know. I'm just saying I was a Sunny D to no pulp but real orange juice to now pulp as an adult.
Okay.
And I feel like pulp's an adult beverage.
It is.
As a kid, you don't want any of that pulp. Why would you?
I liked it as a kid, but I feel like I was just weird.
Yeah, I didn't like. I was a consistency texture kid.
Yeah.
I still kind of am, but it had to be no pulp when I was a kid. But it has to be pulp now. I like the pulp.
Yeah.
We're almost near the end. What is your favorite? Oh yeah, let me see. Oh, Sean, SHON, Sean.png, which is weird because of Xavier.png just asked the question.
Yeah. Sean.png,
who also sent some root beer.
Oh, okay.
That's coming up in a few episodes. So shout out to Sean. Thank you so much for the root beer, dude. Says, what is your favorite Volkswagen chassis? Go ahead and answer that, and I'm going to grab the root beer that we're going to review.
Oh, my.
Favorite Volkswagen chassis?
That is a seriously hard question. Just Volkswagen? Oh, my goodness.
Here's one. Coming in hard with the wild card. Brazilian market SP2.
Oh, yeah.
Volkswagen SP2.
Yeah.
Rear engine, air-cooled, like full-blown, like spaceship shooting brake looking car.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite, but it's the wild card.
It's a wild card, that's for sure.
Oh, second wild card, the K70, built by NSU, manufactured by NSU, bankrupted by NSU. Volkswagen buys it, puts a badge on it, goes first front engine, front wheel drive Volkswagen ever. That wasn't even designed or manufactured by Volkswagen. It was NSU. But that's another wild card car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go.
Okay. I'm a sucker for the Type 3.
Yes.
Yeah. John from the background. Yes. Yeah, man. Fastbacks. Yep, they're all real good. But I mean, anything air cooled. just old beetles. There's just something about an old beetle on the ground, static bagged, doesn't matter. And working on them for so long, I kind of grew a love-hate for them, but
all right.
The man is back with root beer.
All right, move that bottle. There we go. All right. So there are more questions, but I'm going to screenshot these before they're gone, and we'll try to get to them on the next episode. I promise I'll try to get to it. Okay, so we're in conclusion. We're 2.5 hours in. It's a good mark for just the two of us. This one was sent in by Alex McGinnis, our friend from Louisville, Kentucky. Alex sent in a handful of root beers to review on the podcast. By the way, it's 11 o'clock. I should not be drinking root beer right now.
Oh, true.
It's going to destroy me. I'm 36, but I've got the body of an 80-year-old. And when I drink soda or eat anything after like 8 p.m., my body goes into like limp mode. And it's mode. Oh, it's a destruction. But Alex sent me 2 of these, right? And I'd never had this one. And I wanted to keep 2 of them so the 2 of us could like have them, but I wanted to try this one so badly that I already drank one.
I don't blame you.
So I've spoiled the review. But this one, and I'm going to buy a box of this because I don't drink much root beer anymore. I don't drink soda at all, but the soda I do drink is root beer. And most of you guys know that I'm a root beer connoisseur, as is Corey.
Yes.
But I've got a bottle collection out there of like well over 100 bottles now. All of which, except for a few antique bottles, I've actually drank and tried. So if you're listening, and I'll plug this at the end, but if you're listening, DM me on Instagram if you want to send me a root beer from your area that either I have or possibly have not had, and I'll review it on the podcast. And possibly the YouTube episodes, because I do more of those than the podcast.
Yeah.
So Alex McGinnis sent me a root beer by Sprecher. There it is, if you can see it on YouTube. It's by Sprecher, which is a root beer company based out of Wisconsin, and they label their root beer a gourmet root beer. Now, their normal root beer is one of my favorites, right? So I've got like a top 5. I've got a top 10 for sure, but I've got like a top 5, and Sprecher is in it. Sprecher's in the top 5. You don't see them around here that often in the Northeast. You don't see them at like your normal grocery store or anything. They're getting larger, so you do see them around more often. But this is a gourmet root beer out of Wisconsin. I think it's out of Milwaukee. Let me see here. Glendale, Wisconsin. So I've not had... Yeah, Corey's got an ex from Wisconsin, and he won't let it go. Oh, my God. I'm just kidding.
The dagger to the heart.
Every time I'm like, because I used to spend my summers in Wisconsin. So whenever, for BMX, I was out there all the time. Whenever I'm like, I'm not going to Wisconsin. I know. Anyway, I had to roast him on that. Because I was surprised it didn't come up sooner. When I'm from Wisconsin. I was just waiting. So this Sprecher, though, is a maple root beer made with maple syrup. Now, we're from New Hampshire, so we're from the land of maple syrup.
Yes.
Like Northern Canada, Vermont, New Hampshire. We're all the states and areas associated with real, true maple syrup, as is Wisconsin. But this is a Sprecher gourmet root beer with maple syrup in it. And I'm telling you already, I'm just going to pretend like I've never had it. So here we go. We are open. Right? Here we go, sir.
Yes.
Let's get some of this.
Oh, that's nice.
Dude, this is a treat. Alex, my friend, you did no wrong. Here we go. All right. I'm probably going to finish this whole half, too. All right, so we've got the Sprecher maple root beer. Corey has not had it yet.
It
my
smells
friend,
great
Prost.
already.
Prost, my friend. Here we go. One sip. You all know the rules. Right?
Yeah. It's phenomenal.
It's so good. Wow. So here's the thing. I mentioned this after the first review on the last episode that I did solo that I reviewed Bear Claw. Mm-hmm. Bear Paw. I can't remember the name of it. I've had COVID, so my taste and smell have been compromised. They've come back a little bit, but not perfectly.
Yep.
So I haven't tried this. Like, I didn't try this before I had COVID. So my taste I can't trust my taste anymore, but I can taste that this has like maple in it.
Yes.
And
it's subtle, but it's like a good balance.
Man. So Sprecher, all right, so here we go. Here's the review. Review time. One sip, you don't know the rules. I swear, I'm the root beer pizza slice review guy now. I'm taking that title. This is like the Dave Portnoy like root beer.
Root beer.
One sip, one gulp, you don't know the rules.
Yeah.
Except I don't do it street side with like tons of people trying to take selfies with me. So Sprecher, and again, like I said in the last podcast, I'm just making these words up, right? I'm gonna sound like some connoisseur. I'm gonna swirl it around. I'm gonna look at it as if I know what I'm looking for. So Sprecher already is like a full-bodied dark root beer, right? Very flavorful, dark. Not a lot of fizz. This has actually a little bit more fizz than the last bottle I drank, but doesn't usually have a lot of carbonation, which means you get more flavor. There's less like carbonated water in there, right? So the Sprecher's like super dark,
thick,
deep, thick, like stouty root beer taste, right? So this has all of that with a maple flavor infused to it.
Yeah,
so
but not overpowering.
It's not overpowering. It's like that aftertaste hint.
Yeah,
you know,
because there's another maple one, Swamp Pop. I think.
I haven't tried that.
I think you have it on your wall. I thought you did.
There's one with caramel.
Maybe.
I don't think I've had one with maple. I'll have to look at the wall again.
Yeah, but I remember the maple being overpowering. And this is not.
I mean, and it says right here on the label, all natural Sprecher maple root beer made with pure maple syrup. And it says right here, gluten-free, caffeine-free, and kosher. Brewed in Glendale, Wisconsin. True cane sugar, true maple syrup, natural caramel color, natural flavors. So here we go. 1 to 10. I gave Bear Claw a 7.5 for and a presentation goes with this review too. Yeah. So brown bottle is the key part of this. And it doesn't, I would think that it doesn't have anything to do with flavor, but I feel like it does. Yeah. I feel like if it's in a brown or a dark bottle, I'm already anticipating this being better than it should be. So Sprecher, for all those listening and not watching, the Sprecher is in a dark bottle. It's got like a yellowish label, real bright label. It's got a maple leaf on it. Presentation, labeling is amazing. And just the fact that it's a cool infused flavor of root beer. So it's got like maple in it. You know, that's amazing that they've like added another flavor to the root beer, but it still tastes like root beer. Maple's, I'm biased to maple anyway, pure maple anything.
Of course.
I'm reserving, like I gave Bear Claw a 7.5. Clear bottle. I think it was a clear bottle. Can't remember. But the taste was very good. This, and I'm reserving between 9 and 10 for like the elite of the elite.
Of course.
This gets a 9.
Heck yeah.
Like Sprecher Maple gets a 9.
Yeah.
Because it's just that good.
It is really
good. And I'm
good.
drinking it at 11 o'clock at night. Wow. Yeah, if any of you can get your hands on it, and I'm sure you can order it straight from Sprecher, which I'll probably do in the future, so I've got a few more of these, I suggest doing it. And if you can, perhaps get a 6-pack of the maple and the regular Sprecher to try, because the regular Sprecher is amazing.
There is a sub shop in Newburyport that has Sprecher.
Yep. I've seen it around.
Yeah.
It's just my local grocery store, like my local Hannaford, carries a lot more now than they used to. Because it used to just be IBC.
Oh, yeah.
IBC and like Stewart's started showing up.
Stewart's, yeah.
Because Stewart's is from Jersey or that area. Mm-hmm. But they weren't around for quite a while up here. But they're here now. And then Virgil's is there now. Captain Eli's is out of Maine.
Yep.
Those are there. I'll review some of those too.
Boylan's.
Boylan's Boston.
Yeah.
That's out of Mass.
One of my favorites.
And those are all super, super good. IBC's good. For how big of a brand they are, like how widespread they are, they're really good too. Mm-hmm. But I'm giving the Sprecher Maple a 9.
Yeah.
That gets a 9 for me.
I agree to that.
And we won't see very many 9s on this.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see many 9s. It's going to take a lot to get an 8.
Yeah.
I'm a true connoisseur. I'm a snooty root beer connoisseur. I mean, and that's good, man. We should have had that with the wraps we had earlier.
Yeah.
Like we should have been just recording while eating, just like eating chicken Caesar wraps.
Yeah. All the throat and stomach noises.
Oh, it'd been awful for everybody listening. But yeah. So that's it. Alex McGinnis, thank you so much for sending that in. He sent a few others, like a Frosty and a few others that I've had before.
Yeah.
That I may review in passing, but I want to move through because there's been a few other people that have sent root beers. So everyone else that sent root beers in, thank you so much. I will get to them. They're still in the fridge. If you sent duplicates of them, I've I've already tried something. I couldn't resist. So, because I couldn't keep up. If anything, this will help me motivate me to do more podcasts.
Yeah.
Because this is a better long-winded talk about the root beer. I have thought about doing them at like the beginning of some of the YouTube episodes just to get through some of them, which I may still, but I end up filming that whenever I'm headed to the shop or something. So, but I mean, maybe that's a better time than 11:30 at night. It's 11:11. Make a wish. I wish there were more maple Sprecher in my refrigerator.
Oh, that was
How
good.
about that?
That was good.
All right, guys, that's it for this episode. We put a long one in. It's Sunday night. We got work. I've got work to do tonight.
Yeah, that's
insane. Holy cow.
You're kind of crazy, but I got work in the morning, but you know.
Well, Limitless_Corey on Instagram.
Yes.
John, JOHN.Ludwick on Instagram. Ludwicks Garage on Instagram. The Governor's Club, The Rising Sea, all the plugs. If you're listening, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Doing a lot on the Polo 2F Coupe that could potentially be your car. Going to give that thing away. Doing everything I can to document every step of the way on that car. Huge shout out to Bag Riders, ECS Tuning, Rotiform for hopefully coming in on this project. Looks like we're going to work something out. Thanks to Corey for the help on the car today.
Absolutely.
Thanks to Steve for the paintwork on the bumpers and a few other things. And that's it, I think.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode.
Yeah.
Hey, Prost.
Prost. That was a good one.
Cheers. Sláinte. Cheers to all of you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow on Instagram. And we will see you in the next episode.
Yep.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
It's a good thing there's half of that bottle because I'd be drinking that whole bottle right now and I'd be in some serious shape by the time I went to bed.